I will call our meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. and I'll ask everyone to stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Quatre bras époque Philippine, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. Car qui voilà, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this morning?
There's one addition this morning, item 8.8. Call it homeless cleanup.
Camps and
Camps and
homeless
cleanup.
camps
Yep.
and enforcement?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Did everyone get that? 8.8. Is there a member of council that would like to approve the agenda for the May 6, 2026 regular meeting of council with the addition of 8.8, homeless camps and enforcement? Councillor Jeffrey, thank you very much. I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Any corrections or amendments to the April 15th, 2026 regular meeting of council minutes? Is there a member of council that would like to approve those? Councillor Wheeler, thank you very much. I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. We have no proclamations this morning, no public hearings. We do have a delegation from the RCMP, the detachment at a glance. We have Staff Sergeant Ryan Hoopner here this morning. Welcome and good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good this morning. How is everybody here?
Good. The sun is shining,
Yes, it is.
right?
It is. Is it pronounced Hootmer? Yeah. Like it's like almost like an owl. Like hoot.
Hoot.
All right, I got in charge. Pardon?
Hanging out with you is always a hoot.
I'm in charge of the clicker, so let's give it. What? Do I just keep going? Yeah. Ah, there we go.
There you are.
There I am. Okay, I actually don't have too much for you this morning. I'll highlight a couple things in the stats, and then I'm going to give an update on some police work that was done the last couple of weeks. And we're going to go from there. So there we have our quick at a glance. Green is good, red is bad, blue is nothing changes. So you can see overall persons crime was up last year. It's trending down. This is just grabbing the first 3 months of this year. So it's always a bit of a, early in the year, it's kind of just a quick snapshot, but we now have a quarter of the year's data and we continue to see persons crime dropping. And then the big one for us is that property crime continues to circle down a little bit, which is good. Yeah, we actually had 3 less motor vehicle thefts, which we'd seen them trending up at the end of last year and then into the beginning of this year, but that's fallen away. We managed to put a few people in jail, and it's amazing how quickly the thefts suddenly just drop away. So, yeah. So that is your overall. That's just kind of a more detailed look at it. The graph kind of is the quick, easy look. That's your more detailed and breaks it down a little bit. But if you have any questions for that, you can fire away. I do want to highlight a couple things in the actual numbers, I think that are important. For example, possession of stolen goods, which is kind of in the middle there, you can see we're up to 16. That is a stat we circle that we actually look to go up because that is proactive work being done by the members. And those are actually, we can title something as possession of stolen property when we lay charges and actually find somebody with that property. So last year we were down a little bit, but we're back up, which is good. That's proactive work being done by the members, and those are charges being laid for property crime. So that's always one we look at. We don't want the rest of them up, but I always want the possession up because that means the members are finding and charging people. The other one I want to highlight as being down is our mischief other. So you can see we were way up last year, and that's like people sleeping in vestibules and that type of idea. And I know like you guys are gonna have a discussion about homelessness later on, but I would like to highlight that we're not getting those downtown complaints like we used to. Like there's been some really good work done by Vanessa, and we're not seeing those individuals down there, and that is showing up in our call as well. We're not getting those calls, so I think we should highlight where we are getting wins, and that's one where we are getting a win. So, yeah, we'll hopefully continue. I understand that at any moment, somebody could fall back into that and end up in that situation again and kind of driving that, but currently, we're just not seeing those calls and those individuals out.
So with that, with the mischief is down, so it's down specifically from the homeless not sleeping in the vestibules. What about when we look at domestic violence, harassment, uttering threats, like things like that?
So our domestic violence would kind of be captured in your assaults and uttering
Okay.
threats, and you can see it's kind of just holding steady.
Yeah,
Like assaults are 30 to 26 from last year, and uttering threats are down 3, and criminal harassment is the exact same. So it's kind of like we're
still up
just
there, yeah,
up, but even.
Yeah.
So it's not higher than last year. It is up from, like 2024 is a down year, but if you look going back 2023, 2022, it's all kind of within 3 or 4 of each other. So it's kind of like this even over the last 5 years, that's where it is. And same with criminal harassment is kind of, it's all, you know, when you're within 2-3 calls of each other for a town of 7,000, it's kind of acute. I consider that's just kind of where we reside at. Yeah.
and then the mental health.
I'll bring us to the mental health. The other thing I want to highlight quick before we go to the next page is our fail to comply and breaches. That's also another one because that's proactive work. We have some friendly competition stuff at the detachment. So in March, we did a curfew check competition between our 3 teams, and that resulted in a good spike in fail to comply charges, so.
Who won?
It's Corporal Notheis's crew won. So that's Constable Timachak, Sanford, and Peck Bailey.
Oh,
But yeah, they definitely, a lot of prolific offenders had their doors knocked on all
Really
hours of
good.
the day they were a little surprised actually how it worked really well. We'll do it again.
You made it uncomfortable.
You can't do it every month because you gotta like pick something every month, but March was curfew check month and they fired in a lot. I think we hit like 130 checks in 1 month. It was,
Wow.
yeah, they did. They
That's
really bought
awesome.
in. The prize, I'm taking the winning group out for wings. Yeah, so, yeah, that is
That's
the
nice,
prize.
very nice. Oh, and welcome back too. I heard you got a chance to visit with your daughter, so.
Yeah, we went to Thailand. It was really fun. actually.
Wonderful.
If you ever want to go to Thailand, it's awesome.
Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
In terms of the prolific offenders, on average, how many would you say we have in the community at one time?
So, well, that's a good question. Like on release and being checked.
Yeah, like when you're saying you
to
did
being able to be
132
checked, yeah.
checks, is that on
So,
2 people
No,
or
probably about a dozen.
a dozen?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they variety. Some of them are on like 24-hour, and some of them are like 6 to 9. But we work with probation on that list because they kind of set up the rules around their release when they're out waiting. It's either on probation after being sentenced or awaiting trial, but they both will have to report to probation for that. But we average around 10 to 12-ish. Yeah.
Thank you.
The last thing I want to highlight, as Mayor Dodd said, mental health. we're at 38 last year, we're at 69 calls this year for the first 3 months. So that we continue, like I've talked lots about this being the biggest, where our members are spending lots of their time. That's not changing. It's still way up there. I've had good conversations with my district leads on this and trying to figure out what we can do, whether we can get more RPAC support. So we'll continue down that because it has been highlighted kind of every time as that's kind of where we're spending our time. So yeah, we're going to continue pushing down that road, but that is one I've circled as well, saying, I think it's on the next page here, but like, if you look, we're 13, 31, 31, 38, 69 this year. So, yeah, still a big driver of time.
Yeah.
That's what I got. I'll just do a quick highlight of the last couple of weeks, which was actually while I was gone. I told the guys, if you're gonna do that much work while I'm gone, maybe I should leave more often. So last week, our GIS had been running a project on a problem residence on 47th Street. It's kind of turned into a flop house. We've been getting lots of kind of neighbors in that area, but they'd run a drug trafficking file on that, and they hit it last week, Friday. They arrested 10 people in that house. So that just tells you it's a flop house. They obviously, the tough part of that is 10 people aren't trafficking out of that house. You have to kind of nail down who's selling and who's just using and living there. So, which they did a good job of that. They picked their targets and identified them. So they seized fentanyl and cannabis and then a bunch of stolen checkbooks, all from kind of the one room where our targets were living. And so Nikita Murray and Nick Brown have both been charged with trafficking out of that residence. So fortunately, you take enforcement on it, you hope you shut the house down, but that will be a few steps down the road because everybody's kind of back.
And so are those local residents?
Local residents, yeah, they're both local. They've been here the whole time I've been here.
And what was, sorry, who was it again?
Nikita Murray
Nikita
and
Murray,
Nick
yeah.
Brown have both been charged with possession
Okay.
for the purpose of trafficking out of there. They're a couple.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so they both unfortunately were released by Justice of the Peace, but that's our life. But a good, yeah, it's good to take enforcement on those houses that are being noticed by everybody else in that area. So the neighbors are happy. Yeah, we'll continue working to shut that house down. The other was a proactive traffic stop on another individual who we've identified as a drug trafficker in town. He chose to drive in a way that attracted attention. And the result of that is they actually seized 850 grams of cocaine out of that truck. And so
Wow.
that is almost a kilo. That's a big seizure for Drayton Valley. Just really good work by Corporal Johnson and Constable Cook to work their way into that truck. So that is Sean Kavanaugh has been charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking out of there.
And repeat offender?
Nope, new,
Wow.
actually, for first drug time trafficking, yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead, Counselor Wheeler.
Do you have an age on that? Is that, I don't know if they've just been charged of what you're allowed to say or you're not allowed to say,
I
but,
don't know if I'm allowed to say the name. I can
Okay.
say the name because they've been charged.
okay, that's fine.
But not the age.
Local resident,
Local.
Yeah.
yeah.
And could you maybe just tell us a little bit, like you talked about the first one where you said the two have been charged and then released by the Justice of the Peace. There was this individual, Sean, again charged. Can you walk us
Released by
through what the
Justice of the Peace as
process
well.
looks like? So is that,
So
yeah.
we arrest, we put the package together with the evidence that we have, basically like weights of the drugs and the evidence to show that it's for trafficking. And then we submit that into a bail hearing, goes to an office in Edmonton, and a crown out of Edmonton then will work with a defense lawyer and the justice to decide on release. So we have no say in that release.
in that?
Yeah.
So the two individuals that were released by the Justice, they're just still awaiting trial, though?
Now they're awaiting trial.
Now they're
Yeah,
awaiting
so
trial.
basically, they've had their bail hearing, they got released.
Yeah.
And same with Mr. Kavanaugh, he had a bail hearing. The reason I can say their names now is because charges are sworn and it's public record.
Okay,
If the
good.
charges weren't sworn in that hearing, I couldn't actually release the names yet. But when we do it that way, the charges get sworn, it becomes public record, and I can say the names. But yes, so same process for Mr. Kavanaugh. Files put towards the justice of the peace, they determine the release.
And then, so how long do you think now, the period from now till trial?
About a year.
Oh, so it is about a
It's
year?
averaging about a year.
And are they being monitored within that year, or are
So
they
yeah, they'll
on,
be released on conditions.
on conditions?
Yeah.
Okay,
So they'll hit kind of that probation list with people, depending on what their conditions are, whether, lots of times these people don't get curfew just because of the way drug trafficking, curfew is often meant for offenders that are out at night doing crime, that type of idea. Drug trafficking often doesn't get curfew, but there'll be no drugs, they could be limited cell phones, that type of idea, or have to provide cell phone numbers and records to probation, that type of conditions will be on.
and if there's an additional crime that's committed in that time, then it's just additional charges at
Additional
trial?
charges back in front of a justice of the peace normally if they've breached that release order. The moment they've been released by a justice, we're not going to release them ourselves. If they've breached that document that the justice chose, it's back in front of a justice, say they breached that document you released them on, and then they determine the release again,
Wow. Well,
whether it's release or hold.
Yeah, wonderful, that's wonderful news, great job to your team. I'm not going to say you because you were on holidays, but good job to the team,
I was
Ryan.
100% on holidays. Not at all here. The last one is, I've talked about this offender before. His name's Kenneth Karen. I think last time when I did the presentation with pictures, he was wanted Wednesday.
Yeah.
So he is one of our prolific truck thieves, and unfortunately, despite our argument against it, Crown agreed to release him. So he got released back to the community about 3 weeks ago. And last week, he was involved in a file where a quad got stolen, shockingly. But with that, the members managed to get him in a vehicle and managed to work their way into that vehicle, and they found a loaded handgun in the trunk. So, yeah, so Mr. Kenneth Karen's been charged with the gun offenses of that, and he's back in custody. He was about 3 weeks out in our community.
So I know we talked about previously doing a community impact
Yeah, that one is
statement.
a good one on.
Can we
actually.
do
Yeah,
that on this particular one? Okay,
That's good, yeah.
it would be a really good one.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little scary when
It
it's
is.
a guy who's involved in lots of thefts and then he's running around with a loaded handgun.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And of note, like the last time we caught him last summer, he also had stolen guns in that trailer. So it's just pattern of behavior for that individual. So, that's it. That's what I got as an update for the work being done last week. Reno at the detachment's going ahead. I got to pick colors this week, which is not something I ever thought I would do as a detachment commander. By me picking colors, I mean I went to people that know how to do that and they picked colors, but
Wow.
yeah, it's like, is this really a police chief's job? So, what colors do you want?
Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
Do they have an ETA on that? Give us more details.
I'm hoping, my hope is that we're kind of firing up in the fall for the Reno. Yeah, I'm working with Troy to get our portable lined up for that time too, but that's kind of what we're hoping. Yeah,
Wonderful.
when it's done, we're gonna have to live through the Reno first. But that's my update.
Councillor Clark?
Yeah, just to back up on the paint stuff before that. So I just wanted a bit of a comment from you in terms of community safety. So we travel a lot throughout the province, right? And for various sports with our kids' stuff. And on the weekend, one of the parents had their window smashed and a wallet stolen in Calgary. A couple of weeks prior to that, somebody had their catalytic converter cut off their truck and all that sort of stuff. So crime happens, right?
Yep.
But my question is like I hear around the community people saying, I feel unsafe, and I feel unsafe in this town because I can't go for a walk at night, and I wouldn't let my kids ride their bike uptown to 7-Eleven. So what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, that's, I always find that interesting because I'll be honest, in my policing career, Drayton Valley is the safest community I've lived in. And there's a reason I chose to stay here and raise my kids here, and it's because of that. Like, it's a safe community. I don't understand the bike thing or the walk things at night. We have no calls. That just doesn't happen in Drayton, knock on wood, but it just doesn't happen. As far as kids riding bikes around, we never get a call, or the odd one. Sometimes the kid has breached where they're supposed to be, so they make up an idea of why they're out there and what happened, and then we work through it and find out that, no, it actually didn't happen. The alleged, somebody approached me or something like that. Often those, we can work through that and they don't happen. There's all sorts of reasons kids make that up. We just don't get, like, as far as like random, people being approached at night walking the trails, it just doesn't happen. We don't get those calls. Kids being approached on bikes, we just don't get those calls. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me feel good, because when people ask me, how safe is Drayton Valley, right? They're from out of town looking at houses, right? And I'll tell them, well, it's one of the safest communities in Alberta, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree.
And, just echoing kind of what you've said in the past, that, compared to, the WAD, let's look at the Western Area District, or Western Alberta District, we're probably safer than our peers, right?
Yeah.
Whitecourt, Edson, Hinton.
Yeah, like,
From a crime perspective.
yeah, I mean, I don't dig into Edson, Hinton stats, but like, this community is, I've always said it, like, we see some of our person's crime, but that person's crime isn't random. And like, we just don't have random person's crime here. Like, it is a safe community that way.
You do have to watch for the odd deer on the paths at night, though,
You
walking.
do have to, maybe a deer. Or a moose.
Or a moose, yeah, the odd moose too, right?
Yeah.
Got to be careful of
Yeah,
the
that's
wildlife.
probably more likely, actually.
Well, we've seen it a few times at night where you're kind of walking, not paying attention, they're like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoops, yeah. Any other questions? No? I do believe you'll be back this afternoon for a conversation as well with
Yeah,
us?
I gotta run out. I got another meeting at 10, and then I'm gonna slide back over.
Okay, wonderful. I do have one question, and I'm not sure if I can ask it. I know that the odd time we hear rumors in the community that are happening, and I did hear something that happened at one of the schools. Maybe I won't elaborate on, it had to do with drugs?
So we've been having, like, Spencer's been dealing lots with drugs at Powerhouse
Powerhouse?
campus. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's been engaged that. They set up like a meeting with, they even did a parent meeting. Him and Sergeant Ferry did a parent meeting before I left. So
Okay.
a couple of weeks back. I know that was a hot button topic kind of in February. I haven't heard much. Like, I
Okay.
know he's been working through that quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I was getting comments or concerns from parents saying they were worried about now their kids at such a young age attending, and that worry being on their mind, right?
Yeah, what I would say about that is, like, that school goes up to grade 8. So there's an older portion in there that, I'm not gonna say there wasn't like some misuse going on there in a certain group of kids.
Yeah,
But if your child is not hanging out with those groups,
You're fine. It's
kids,
not a
then you're
concern for all
fine.
the
Yeah,
little
like,
kids in the
there's-
school and-
There's 700 kids in that school. I don't think you have to worry. My kids go to that school. I was
Yeah.
not concerned. Yeah, and I know, like I said, Constable Renard, their SRO, has been highly engaged in that.
Okay.
And I haven't heard anything. Now, I've been gone for 2 weeks, but I know they had a parent, him and Dan had a parent meeting before, and just kind of just talking about an education wise on
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, we are aware. Spencer was deeply embedded in
yeah.
that.
He does great with the schools.
Yeah, he does good.
He does a really good job, yeah. Wonderful. So if there's no other questions, then thank you again. Thanks to your team for these great news stories. Let's hope that we can keep them off the streets and in jail.
100%.
Yeah, and whatever way we can do, maybe we can get working on that community impact
Yeah.
statement and get that out then.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, wonderful. Well,
Awesome.
welcome back
Okay,
and enjoy
thank
the
you.
rest of your day, or we'll see you later.
Yes, sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So there's no business arising, besides we'll get a start maybe on the community impact statement for these certain individuals. Next up is our decision items. First up is 8.1, which is our 2026 tax rate bylaw. Good morning and welcome, Ms. Duke. Doik. Duick.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys again. So this is kind of the final step in the budgeting process. So today, we passed the bylaw that will leverage the taxes needed to fulfill the 2026 budget as passed by council in March. So each year, the town sets its tax rates, which are required to be collected to meet the operational and capital expenses for the town. The tax rate, also referred to as a mill rate or millage rate or mill rate, is a figure representing the amount per $1,000 of assessed value of property, which is used to calculate the amount of property tax. All residential and commercial property in Drayton Valley is assessed, and the tax rate and tax rate factor are multiplied by the taxable assessment. Tax rate bylaw 2026-01F is being presented for first, second, and third reading at today's regular meeting of council. The adoption of this tax rate supports the tax levy requirements of the 2026 operating and capital budgets. Council is being asked to approve tax rate bylaw 2026-01F as presented. To facilitate the tax notices being issued in a timely manner, council is being asked to give all three readings to tax rate bylaw 2026-01F today. This will allow administration to mail out notices by May 14th, 2026. And just as a comment, this year, after we got the assessment information, we went through we got what's called, can't remember what the report is called, but it's essentially anything. We gave our assessor a factor saying anything that increased by more than this amount, can you please send us a report? And Connor and myself, as well as McKenna, went through it to study kind of what the trends were, why they were happening. Most large increases had to do with vacant land becoming not vacant, like buildings being built, homes being built, and that. So, yeah, there's actually a number of properties that had improvements on them. Either there was already an improvement and there was more added to it, or just a vacant land that became not vacant. But then there was also a few that over the years, I mentioned this a little bit, I think last year, and I don't remember if it was this council or not, but throughout the years with our prior assessor, what was happening is that there is the cost approach and income approach when assessing commercial property. And it was hard to figure out why it should be that we either use one method or the other for everyone, and they weren't. And it was hard to figure out why that happened. And it was just not being consistently applied. And so last year when we had a big exception, that's what it's called, an exceptions report. That was, that's what highlighted the need to, hey, let's get everyone an income approach. So when we did that this year, it increased a handful of properties by a lot. Now that is the most equitable thing to do. And we have this constant, a push and pull where we want to be equitable, because it's not that we're changing how much property tax we're collecting, it's simply spreading the amount differently in between, right? And so you want properties to be accurately assessed, because that means if one very loud person can bully the assessor into a reduction, that means that assessment value is now being placed on everyone else. And so there's that constant need to be reasonable, but also equitable. And so the approach we took this year and the direction I got from council is that we do want a factor placed, or like a importance placed on reasonability as well, and to not increase somebody's assessment by an unreasonable amount in a single given year. But that being said, we adjusted the assessments by just about $4.5 million downwards to make sure that we were staging the cost to income approach in a way that was that commercial properties were able to slowly go into that, not just increase their property by 30% in a given year. It's just, even though perhaps that should have been what it was assessed at, but also knowing that we have to be reasonable as well. So we had a meeting with our assessor, Connor and myself, and we went through all of them. He talked a lot about how difficult it is with commercial properties because we have so few sales to base that information off of, that the province has given a lot of tools of how to do that. And so we went through a couple of examples, and it made sense. And so we just talked about reasonability and taking that approach. So essentially my view on it is that we could either adjust it now and set the appropriate mill rates, or we could wait and have a bunch of upset people that will take go the appeal route anyways, and then we just lose that tax revenue if it gets adjusted because we've already set the mill rate, so we can't go backwards. That's just a write-off for us at that point. Whereas if we take this approach now before we set the mill rates, now we're going to actually collect that amount. Not to say that there won't be appeals, because we usually have a few, it just happens. Often those appeals happen because of people not getting back to the assessor when they're being asked questions. And so there is things around that now, like where if we can prove that we sent you the questionnaire and you didn't fill it out, you lose your right to appeal and things like that. And so we also did that this year where did we do that? Yeah, I didn't confirm with Connor. We talked about it and then I never confirmed, so that was terrible of me because I shouldn't have asked him in a public meeting like that. But informing people, like, hey, you need to fill out your letters, and because you didn't, because we sent you, or our assessor on our behalf, sent you the questionnaire and you didn't fill it out, you don't get to appeal, but telling you that before you get your tax notice. And so it's kind of a mixed approach to giving them assessment information before the mill rate, like we had talked about potentially doing next year. And we also addressed that topic of potentially switching to doing assessment notices ahead of time. And our assessor was quite happy about that approach, because then he can solve those issues before tax time and then reduce the amount of appeals later. And so all that went really good this year, but all that to say is that the amount that we were going to reduce the non-residential mill rate or the tax rate factor by is not as much, because we adjusted their assessments, meaning that amount was now spread out across everyone. So our total taxable assessments went down a little bit. So I just wanted to make that very clear as we move into the impacts, as we talked about previously, but now we have final numbers. So I'm just going to go over how the average, what the average tax bill will look like. So for residential, the average value of a home last year was $283,000, and this year is $301,000. And
Can you just
change,
say
I'm
that
rounding
again?
up.
Last year was,
$283,000,
and this year is
$301,000,
301.
meaning that that is a 6.35% increase in their assessment. Of the total increase, so the $61 of their increase is going to requisitions for the average residential. So from last year, if we did nothing at all on our side, like if the municipal portion was not increasing at all, their tax bill would still go up by 2.11% just based on requisitions. And the remaining 4% is the municipal portion that's connected to assessment increases, not rate increases.
Yeah.
For the average commercial property, it went from $925,000 in 2025 to $979,000 in 2026, which is a 5.77% increase. Now, because we have a rate decrease here, the percent of increase to their tax bill that's related to requisitions is higher, because we reduced our rate and the province increased theirs. So for the average commercial property, so $922 is what their taxes are increasing by, and $351 is going straight to the province. So, yeah, so that's a big amount. So the overall increase for commercial is 5.07%. So their assessment is increasing by 5.77%. The provincial amount is increasing, but we're lowering our tax rate. So that's why their percent increase is lower than what it could have been otherwise. Let me just go to my mill rate bylaw. So for residential, 27.3% of their taxes goes right to either the seniors or the provincial government for education, and 22.1% for commercial properties goes straight to other bodies that are collecting through our property tax requisitions. So that means 72.7% of your tax bill comes to for residential, 72% of the tax bill comes to us to maintain roads and snow removal and everything that the municipal government does, parks and that kind of stuff, and everything else leaves. And for commercial, it's 77.9%. I know that's a lot of numbers.
It is a lot
I
of
hope
numbers.
there is a breakdown for you to make it easy. But I think I covered everything. Yeah, committed to memory. Good job. So the one thing I haven't covered is the dollar figure that we're talking about. We talked all percentages. So for non-resident or for residential, their tax bill is going up by $196 for the year. And that means $16.40 monthly. For non-residential or for commercial, the average, I'm going to make it very clear, this is speaking about averages, is going up by $922 for the year and $76.84 per month. And yeah, so we need to pass this bylaw, like I mentioned at the beginning, to make sure that we can send out tax notices later in next week. So I'll take any questions now, or else we'll move on to the readings.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. It is a lot of numbers, and I know that for those of us that aren't accountants, what would be a simple message that we can tell the community? I know, Ms. Stone, this is something that we'll see. This little info picture is something we'll see on our website and our Facebook and things like this.
Yeah.
Do we feel this is clear and simple to communicate to the community?
Yeah, I think, here's what I would tell the community, is that the value of your home is not a perfect indicator of what things cost, but it is an indicator for things cost. So if the value of your home increased, that's a pretty good reflection that all of the municipal costs of delivering services also increased.
Have increased.
So it's not that the municipality is making out good because your assessment increased and we're just taking in that money. It's that the municipality's expenses increased most likely by a bigger factor than what the assessment increases by. In fact, it is by a bigger factor. So I think that's the message, is that your home increased, but it's reflective of what's going on in the economy, like costs are increasing. And B, the basket of goods and services that a municipality buys has seen a much bigger impact, inflationary impact, than, if you can believe it, than a household basket of goods and services. And so although it is very, very tough out there, it is also very, very tough for municipalities to keep delivering the services and managing those costs. That's kind of what I would say out there. And council's done a really good job at trying to, doing everything in their power to minimize projects. Like between administration and councils this year, projects were extremely reduced from what we could have done and what maybe we needed to do. But this council understood that you wanted to do strategic planning and you wanted to do service level reviews. You wanted to have a chance to do that to make sure you were making financially sound decisions. And I think that's a really key message, is that you're not going to see a ton of big projects this year potentially, but that was a very strategic decision to decide on what this council feels are community and council priorities, and making sure we find efficiencies where efficiencies can be found. So I think that's the message I would bring out there to the community, that it is unfortunate that things cost more, but it is just a very, very harsh reality that the cost that a municipality has incurred or has to incur, and costs that we have little to no control over, they are increasing, and this council is doing the best to manage that with the tools that they do have. In terms of numbers, I mean, I think I always go back and forth to should we talk assessments versus rates? Like what are we, or should we talk about both? Are we being more transparent, or is it just more confusing? In my opinion, I think the 1.7% decrease in commercial, I think it is important to note because it does show that council's making an effort to bring the commercial versus the residential more like closer together.
together,
So I
yeah.
think it is important to note, but outside of that, I typically would shy away from talking about rates. I would just say your taxes are increasing by this amount. Just because it's just more straightforward, because they'll see that increase on their tax bill anyway. And so if we say, and we've said both, and so we've made it very clear, yes, our rates are increasing by 0% for residential, but you'll still see an increase, and that could be confusing, but I think we're making a good attempt at explaining why you're still seeing an increase. But there is always that thought in my head is like, is this too much information or not enough? And I always say less is more in my opinion, but I do think we're saying anything that somebody could want to know is on there. And I think the back page is really good too, because it shows how much is leaving our pockets straight to
community.
the province and stuff.
Yeah.
So I do think that's important. So, yeah, I think it is robust, but clear. So I would say this is a good graphic to give people.
Perfect, thank you for that. Councillor Clark?
Just a question with regards to the 8.21% provincial requisition increase. So now is that being shifted from somewhere else and just being tagged onto us? Like, would that 8.21 been paid somewhere else or anyway? Yeah. Like in years past, that is.
Yeah, the province has shifted things where, in my opinion, I mean, more had to be spent on education because of growth, right? So I think they just needed more this year. It's not that it would have been spent somewhere else in previous years. But I do think that part of the reason that taxes increase, like the requisitions too, is so that the province decreased their tax rate and they can only do that by collecting it somewhere else.
Yeah, and
So-
that's kind of what I'm wondering, is there a balance? So would
Yeah,
that have been paid
for sure.
elsewhere anyway in years past?
Yes.
And so really that 8.21 is maybe less of a blow in terms of overall.
For sure,
you
you're
know,
seeing a
personal
reduction in your
taxation, yeah.
provincial taxes, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, and I think it is good how you mentioned, about our strat planning and our service level review that we are doing. And then there's a lot of those essential services that are out of our control when we look at RCMP, insurance, utilities, and things like that, that have gone up significantly. So any questions? Is there a member of council that would like to make a motion for first reading of the tax rate bylaw? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I move that council give first reading of tax rate bylaw 2026-01F as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Is there a member of council who would like to give second reading? Councillor Finn?
I motion that council give second reading to tax rate bylaw 2026-01F as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Comment, question, debate on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
So we've been chatting about this since October, right? This isn't just a May thing, or a today thing. So this is, 6-7 months in the making. So not a ton of discussion. I think that's only because everybody's seen a lot of this, and we understand what this is, generally speaking, so.
That's a good point, yeah. So there's a motion made to give a second reading of tax rate bylaw 2026-01F as presented. I'll now call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Can I get a member of council for unanimous consent? Councillor Brooks?
I move to go to third reading for tax rate bylaw 2026/01/F.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. And then I need a motion for the third and final reading of the tax rate bylaw. Councillor Jeffrey?
The council give third and final reading of tax rate bylaw 2026-01F as presented.
Thank you very much for that. And any comment, question, debate on the motion? I would just like to highlight all the hard work that administration has put into this. As Councillor Clark had mentioned, it didn't just happen over the last couple weeks, that it's been quite a few months in the making. We started the budget process right with the new onboarding of council, so thank you to all of council. This was your first budget as new councillors for many of you, so you did a great job and had to make hard decisions, and you'll now know that we'll be doing this again in a few months as we look for the next budget and new projects coming forward, so thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for that. And yeah, it's never an easy decision when we're looking at making those decisions through the budget deliberations and what that looks like for the community. We all are members of this community. We have homes, we pay taxes and families, so we want to ensure that our dollars are being spent, wisely, and that we're considering every implication that comes forward to us. And as Ms. Thompson had mentioned, that we all feel the impacts of those rising costs and inflationary pressures, definitely that are outside of our control. So I do appreciate that this council did make the decision to do things like the strat planning and really set that direction over the next few years, as well as the service level review. So with that being said, there is a motion to give third and final reading of the tax rate bylaw. I will now call the motion. All in favor? And that is carried, and then that wraps up our tax deliberations and decisions for this portion of the year, and we'll be back again, at the end of the year. And thank you very much, Ms. Elvira, for all of your work and coming back and assisting us with this. Okay, so that wraps up 8.1. We will move to 8.2, which is the Team Auction Center building upgrades. I believe Ms. Pollard is... Oh, okay, wonderful. We have Mr. Grant here that will be presenting on Ms. Pollard's behalf this morning. Pardon? We do. We've been actually successful with a few that have came in over the last few months. Well, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Happy to be here. And I know Heather's happy that I'm here and she's not. Sorry, I'm just reopening my computer here. So you've received the package on the motion, page 22, proposal. And what we're asking for is that, unless do you want me to read the whole thing, or you guys have already read it and we're good to go? Just want to make sure.
Maybe just breeze through it a little bit.
Sweet, okay. I don't know how she's sitting so high up. She's shorter than I am. So what we're doing here is we're addressing the problem at the Team Auction Center with regard to the infrastructure. Everybody here is aware that the ice plant is past its usable life and it needs to be addressed. Staff is proposing that we seek the GMF grant and then stack it with another grant that we don't necessarily need to discuss here, but I'm open to, of course. And what the GMF grant is going to do is it's going to roll out in a phased process addressing the design and development of the ice plant and the replacement of it over time. This grant is joint with Brazeau, and Brazeau will be making the same initial commitment. It's a 10% commitment of the initial design fees, and which run in at just under 1.05 million. So our portion that we have to put up front is 104,400 to meet the GMF requirements. Generally speaking, a couple of key notes to recognize that the ice plant's done. It's toast. It needs to be replaced. Stacking grants is the most efficient way to get it done. And this facilitates the initial design and development and some of the initial costs to complete. We've attained Polar Engineering as the consulting group. They've already done the design. they've already gone a significant way down the path to getting stuff done. Now, this is just the remainder of the grant application piece. The money that is required moving forward is already budgeted. This isn't a new surprise. Again, some of this stuff I'm just catching up on. You know, I don't know how much you guys know about it, so I'm open to questions, whatever you guys fire away.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. So this is, as you had mentioned, an additional grant. This is the GHG reduction, and this is a federal grant, I believe,
is.
that could be stacked with the ACI grant that we currently have applied for. Are there any questions in regards to this additional grant? I'm going to go with Councillor Finn first, and then I'll go Councillor Jeffrey.
So just upfront principle, that 1.04, that's just our contribution, the counties is the same then?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Was that your question?
Basically, yes. So the numbers that we're seeing here are the town costs, right? Okay, not the
Yes.
total.
Yes, Councilor, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
The estimated total project for phase 1 is 3.842 million.
3.84.
2.
2 million. And we do have money in reserves. I believe they're right around $800,000 in reserves to go towards this project. Perfect. And that, again, is a cost-shared project with 2 grants that we potentially will be applying for. Councillor Clark? Oh, did you have another question? Sorry, Councillor Finn?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Councillor Clark?
So is this also contingent on the county giving their 10%, or like, are they prepared to do this as well?
The county has already committed.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No. Is there a member of council who would like to make a motion? Yes, Councillor Wheeler, you do? You're nodding yes?
Someone will.
Oh, just someone.
Yes, there is. I move that council approve the allocation of $104,400 to meet the Green Municipal Fund requirements for a minimum 10% contribution towards the total project cost of $1,044,000 at the pre-application stage.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the motion. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? And then the 10% of the total cost will come out of the reserves.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, if there's no other question, comment, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 8.3, which is the Community Safety Fund Policy, C0526, and as well as the Community Safety Committee's Terms of Reference. This is Mr. Rossing this morning. Good morning and welcome.
A little short over here. Good morning, everyone. I'm here for a couple things today. The first one that I'll be speaking to is the Community Safety Fund Policy and terms of reference for the Community Safety Committee for some possible amendments. So back in 2024, a proposed policy was brought to the previous council for consideration. At that time, it was decided not to move forward with it, with anticipation that if we were to be including a policy like this, we should be amending the terms of reference at that time. For various reasons, didn't get moved forward, but at a previous Community Safety Committee meeting, it was kind of discussed whether or not to bring this policy back to council for consideration, with some of those amendments that were previously talked with the last council. So with that being said, in front of you today is a proposed council policy. For the most part, the most important thing I think out of here is the policy would allow the Community Safety Committee to approve expenditures for up to $1,000 per project per year. So what we'll see in the next item, I believe it is I'm going to be asking for some items to be spent out of the Community Safety Fund. Some of them are a little bit pricier, some of them are a little bit cheaper, but one of the things that the Community Safety Committee has discussed is when we've got some of these smaller projects that are coming up, instead of needing to bring them back to council every single time, do we have a set amount where, in essence, the committee, which already has oversight with various members of administration as well as 2 council members, gives them the ability to essentially just approve the funds up to the $1,000. With that being said, again, anything that's over $1,000 will need to come to council. This $1,000 limit came from what's essentially being used with the new community grants, I believe it's called. So again, administration in that case is permitted to approve grants up to $1,000. Anything above needs to come to council. So kind of keeping it in line with what the previous direction has kind of been set with that as well. So a little bit of background on the Community Safety Fund, just for those that don't know what that is. So back in 2023, the town of Drayton Valley started charging, they're called Travis permits. I have no idea what Travis stands for. But it's intended for commercial vehicles that are overweight, wide loads, all that kind of stuff, operating on our road bans, all that kind of thing. So anytime these commercial vehicles are obtaining a permit, they are charged a $25 fee for the town of Drayton Valley. And then those funds go into this community safety fund. So on average, we get approximately $12,000 per quarter that goes into this community safety fund. Historically, it's always been used for, again, safety initiatives within the community. So some of the things that we've spent in the past on it is a couple speed signs. We've done some traffic management plans. We've done some changes down at the Omniplex with all the parking in the middle that some people love, some people hate. But there are various initiatives like that that we've used in the past with these Travis funds. So, again, trying to bring a policy in place to kind of align a little bit more and provide that direction both to council as well as administration on fully what does that actually look like, of what are these funds kind of intended for. So it's not just a rainy day fund, if you want to call it that. There are some guardrails in place for what that looks like. And more importantly, I think as well as, again, putting that $1,000 limit in there so it's a little bit more time efficient and less burdensome on administration to get all these projects forward. And with that, again, because there is council that's part of this committee, council's involved in making these decisions as well, 2 members council. And there's quite informed, I think, on this council on what's kind of going on in that committee anyways. So it's not something that's just going to be administration's just making decisions. We want to spend this money as we please kind of thing. So subject to that, or again, there's the policy that's in front of you. And then we do have the amendments to the terms of reference. With terms of reference, slight little change on just formatting. And then really the only change in the terms of reference is under the financial implications, which just allows the committee to have the authority to recommend expenses for programs and initiatives in accordance with the policy. So what we'd be looking for today, in essence, is to approve the policy as presented. And then if the policy is approved, then we'd be looking to approve the terms of reference right after it. So.
Perfect, wonderful, thank you. Any questions this morning? Councillor Wheeler?
Sure. I'm wondering if you can give an example of if you averaged out the last 5 years, you guys say have been doing this or whatever, how many projects were kind of under $1,000? I don't know if is that a reasonable threshold? Like what made you pick 1,000? I feel like most things would actually be over 1,000.
Yeah, we're from the previous projects that we've done, most of them are over that 1,000.
Yeah.
Again, trying to be mindful of what council is kind of currently acceptable to, I guess, based off of the community grants that are out there. Part of it too is also want to be mindful, as much as we don't want to increase a bunch of administrative burden as well, is if it is something that's going to be a lot higher, I think council should be made aware of that anyways, right? So whether or not it's essentially a rubber stamp or not, at least there's that proper information that council is getting at that time for some of these bigger projects, right? And then part of that is the Community Safety Committee might be thinking one direction on something, and if all of council is thinking something totally different, we also don't want to be spending $10,000 on something that the rest of council is not in favor of, right? So something like $1,000, again, one of the things that we're going to be talking about next is I'm going to be asking for $500 to purchase some bike locks as part of an initiative on that, right? So again, we can do some of these smaller initiatives on that kind of stuff where again, I don't think we need to be coming to council for asking for bike locks. So again, we can do some of these smaller initiatives. And now that we have the Community Safety Committee's 2-year strategic plan in place, again, now we've got a little bit of a roadmap of where we're going. It already identifies some of those things where some of these money are going to be used. So again, some of these things, again, it's not going to be a blanket. You're never going to hear from us again from requesting using these funds, but it does take some of the administrative burden off of it. So it's not, I don't have a perfect answer on whether or not 5,000 would be better or 10,000. I think for start, let's go with 1,000, see how that goes. And if, now that we've got the strategic plan in place, if all of a sudden we're coming back to council every month asking for some additional dollars because now something's $1,200, maybe we have a conversation to amend the policy at that point. But I think to start, I'm comfortable with $1,000.
Yeah, and my point would be more, is it even worth it? Like in the sense of, I think council probably really wants to be apprised of what is going on and making decisions and seeing things come forward. And even if it is just the bike locks, like that kind of a program, I still want us to all be like engaged and supportive of doing that and helping that committee in a sense. So I'd almost rather see everything come to council. So that's why I was curious, how many early under 1,000 would that help you with? If it's once or twice a year, sure, maybe, but if it's, you're only coming 2 or 3 times a year anyway, then I don't know if bringing everything would be that much more work than, of the 3 you're bringing, only 1 is under 1,000, so, yeah, just weighing it out.
Yeah, I do kind of agree, like, I guess my worry or my question would be is that if you're approving the 1,000, then if this is happening in the community, are all of the council are informed of this? So it's like somebody comes up and says, hey, that was really great, you guys did the bike locks. It's like, what? So then we all are speaking the same language and know, right, in that communication piece, rather than just, say, 2 councilors that sit on it. Sometimes it gets lost in, if it's not being reported in the updates and things like that as well, you know?
Yeah, and again, like I said, I think it's important that council knows, and I think that's also important that the council members that are on the committee, if we do move forward in this direction, the onus is on them to make sure they're reporting to the rest of council on what's going on, right? The roundtable is a great opportunity, or the council reports is a great opportunity for council to share that information. So I'm in support either way, but I'd also, let's make sure council's also doing their proper reporting as well, if that's the direction that
And
we're
knowing
going.
what's
So that
happening,
everyone's
yeah.
aware of those projects, right? And a lot of these things do benefit the community in a lot of areas, right? So they're really good talking points for you guys as well, right? So-
Right, yeah. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Finn and then Councillor Brooks.
I guess my only comment on that and kind of what we discussed was like, so if there is a smaller project, so I sit on the community safety
Okay,
committee.
yeah.
So if there was a smaller project that we had and it was the only project, then, but they have to do the admin work to get on the agenda and right, so it takes a little bit of
Gotcha.
time to report to it, whereas we can approve at the committee and then just report it. This, or you're gonna wait until you have multiple projects because you're not gonna want to come to council for 500 or 800 or whatever here or there, or if it's a top up or something like that. But that would be like my only rebuttal. So rather than having one project, we say, hey, this is great, it's $800. We have that authority, or no, we don't have the authority, so now we have to do a delegation, or put it on the agenda, we need to come to council and go through that process. That was kind of like also a discussion we had.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, my only question, I guess, is who's making the programs that the expenditures are for? Like if council's making the program and it's kind of outlining, this is what it's for, I don't really have a problem with, letting the committee do a lot of that work and that, with kind of, I don't want to say bypassing council, but certainly we should be letting know. How do I
aware
put
of?
that together? I'm trying to say a sentence that should be really simple. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that'll be put together, but so if council's approving it, I don't have a problem with it, but maybe if the committee's doing it, like if they're making a program, then it might be prudent to bring everything here. So I guess I need to know that. Who makes programs?
Thank you. I guess my question would be just for consistency too, and I don't recall, it's been a while since I attended, how does the Sustainability Committee work? So the Sustainability Committee has, I think, a budget around 5,000. So when they're making expenditure decisions, are they made there? And then, so it's like, okay, we're going to spend $1,000 on pots for the sustainability. Are you deciding there, or are you bringing it to council and asking?
We haven't so far, but I'm pretty sure everything actually comes through to council. Like, we would say this is what we're going to do, but I think we bring it forward to council. Because I think we actually only have 1,000 and I don't know.
I thought it was 5,000, yeah. Because it goes towards Lanterns on the Pond and some other projects. So that's where I was just wondering
Question.
how those decisions were made, because we want to be consistent with all of our,
Agreed. And it's just an internal committee, so at the end of the day, each committee, it's like the rec committee you sit on, who makes that plan?
yeah, in recreation,
So-
all of them, just so we're consistent, right? Because I know recreation at one time had came and asked to make decisions, and we said, no, that should be coming to a council as a whole for those. Cody, do you have a comment for that, or a response?
Yeah, just that, I don't know how
Yeah.
the sustainability committee's put together. Within this package, it's stated that this is an advisory committee to council, so, if a program comes from them and gets approved by us, that's fine. But if they're just making programs and I'm not being accusatory, right? It's like, that's just the way it works, if that's just the way it works. But if the board is making the programs and is essentially being given, they're setting direction and they're getting the budget for it, like they're just able to disperse funds however the board decides. I just feel like there should be a little more council involvement than that, but I still haven't received the answer to my original question was, how do the programs get created? Do they come to council or are they just within the board?
So particularly, like, let's say the locks, are you saying, let's use that as an example? Did that come as a council decision, or was that decided at the committee? Maybe we'll start with that.
Yeah, so all these initiatives come from the committee. The committee is comprised of 2 members council, myself representing enforcement services, Chief Thompson representing fire services, Mr. Hoopmer that was here earlier representing the RCMP, and then Mr. Jensen on behalf of Alberta Health Services. So it's really focusing on that community safety aspect kind of thing. So the board committee, whatever you want to call it, is the one that brings forward these initiatives and moves forward with it. Again, we do have a 2-year strategic plan now that council previously looked at a governance and priorities committee. So again, really outlines a lot of what we're going to be focusing on over the next 2 years. So there's always going to be things that pop up in the next 2 years that we're going to be looking at and seeing if we can address it as well. When we meet though, lots of times it's kind of, for the most part, I don't like this word, but the flavor of the day kind of thing is what's kind of popped up in the last month. That as a group we can brainstorm, we're sitting together, what can we start brainstorming on? How do we come to some solutions on some of these things? Some of them it's just quick amongst us, we can find a solution and we get running with it. Some of the things obviously take a little bit more work, there's some funding things that come with it, right? So it is very driven by the committee on kind of what's going on in the community, of what are they seeing as the issues. What are they hearing from the community? What are they hearing from council members? And then we take the items and then what can we do about it?
Does that help a bit? Yeah. Comes from the committee. Comes from the committee. Again, I think my only concern would be the consistency. We have many internal, whether it's sustainability, recreation, task force, all of these, that they're all consistent. So if we're doing it at one, that we're doing it up to 1,000 at all, and that the terms of reference, I would say, would be similar for, like, we should almost have like a template for all of our internal committees, and besides the, maybe the membership composition is going to be a little bit different in the objectives, but it's kind of just a fill-in. So I don't know if we would need a minute to table that to just check that everything aligns, or if can go ahead with this one and then make sure all the other ones, or how is council feeling? But I think that consistency is important. Councillor Jeffrey?
Just kind of a comment, listening to the conversation. I think the first thing that we need to finalize is the purpose of these committees, is to perhaps come up with the ideas and suggestions for whatever you're there for. The question is that, is the committee then going to bring those ideas and suggestions to council? And the council makes the final decisions as to whether they carry on? Or is that going to be a committee responsibility? So that's the decision that we're debating here, as to what point does that happen. And then, so Plan A could be that the committees come up with the ideas and suggestions, brings it to council, the council makes the decision, and then the committee's responsibility is to carry through with making it happen. Plan B could be that the committee has total responsibility for coming up with the ideas, suggestions, given a budget to work with, and carries through. So we need to determine which way we want to go.
Yeah, yeah, and then have that consistency. Counselor Clark?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this, this particular committee is a little bit unique in the sense that it has a, you know, a five-figure budget, right? The rest, I think the only other one is sustainability with 5,000, right? That being said, there are kind of guardrails on where this money can be spent and how it can be spent as is, right? I'm not necessarily fussed around the $1,000. I'd be okay with that because those guardrails in place. So it's not like it'd be going and, hey, we're going to go and get new tires for, you know, a particular vehicle. So I'm okay with $1,000. I think it just kind of gets us out of the weeds sometimes in places maybe we don't need to be. And secondly, there are two counselors on here that, you know, in my opinion, should be bringing this sort of stuff back to council as part of their reports in terms of here's the stuff that's going on, here's the stuff that's planned, and here's what we'd like to do with it. So that's my view. I think it's just another layer we're sort of removing and red tape, let's call it, so.
How does administration feel like if we were to go ahead and say, okay, the ask today, so it's to approve the community safety fund policy and it's also to approve the terms of reference. How do we feel about making sure that all of our terms of reference are consistent for these committees then? That just makes it a whole lot easier. Like, is that something if we were to go ahead and approve that we can then go and align? Or is this going to be coming back then in 3 months because it doesn't align now with the other committees?
If council is happy with the terms of reference that they see in front of them, you can approve it, and we can have a look at the rest of our terms of reference for all of our other internal committees and kind of use this one as a template to go forward with, or like you had suggested, if you would prefer to table it and we look at it all together, but I think this committee is eager to move forward with their
Wants to
plans
spend
and
some
their
of their-
objectives, and I would recommend that we do move forward with this, and then we can look at the others and align them in that way.
Okay, I just had a couple questions in regards to the policy. So under responsibilities, 3B, when it comes to the CAO or designate. Okay, so when I look at review and approve any procedures and revisions related to the policy. So again, that's the same responsibility under council, or we're just duplicating that?
Oh, I can speak to it.
So
So
three-
council's responsibilities is to review and approve this policy, and CAO is to review and approve the procedures.
So the procedures, okay. And then, so number 3, approve or cause to be approved funding requests as directed by community safety. I just want to make sure we have checks and balances in place when
Yeah.
when it comes to authority, right?
Yeah, so again, going back to if we are moving forward with the up to $1,000, ultimately, under the terms of reference, I believe it talks about how the CAO needs to be the one that ultimately is the approver of it, right? So if the committee comes forward and, yeah, we want to do X, Y, Z, here's the projects, then ultimately it's up to that CAO to also confirm or deny at that point, that up to $1,000.
Can we put in there up to $1,000 there? For the 3B3? It doesn't say it in the 3.
We do have under the very last.
Make it clear.
I just-
3D is through resolution of the committee, approve intended expenditures up to a maximum amount of $1,000.
So that's under the senior manager, or that's under,
That's community safety committee members will.
yeah, that's community safety members.
So I'm thinking at the end, have wording in there to be brought to the CAO. for final
So
consideration.
maximum amount of 1,000 before taxes per calendar year and recommended expenditures above the limit to be brought to council for. Would that be, and then we just change it to the CAO? Is that what you're saying?
No, so basically on D, it would be through resolution of the committee approved intended expenditures to a maximum amount of $1,000 before taxes per project per calendar year, something based on the approval of the CAO. And then anything over 1,000 has to be brought to
Yeah,
council.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's good, yeah. Okay, any other questions? So is everybody okay with kind of moving forward? I'll come to Farrell's question in a second, moving forward and then having the review of the other terms of reference to be consistent? Okay, I'm just going to go to Councillor Wheeler first and then I'll go Councillor Brooks.
Thank you. In section 2, you talk about funding through the community safety fund shall not be provided for external agencies, organizations, boards, not-for-profits. I would ask why, I guess, and think that sometimes there's great opportunity to partner with the community and events or things that are happening and stuff that's going on, and I wouldn't want to just say no. I was wondering if we could add in funding shall not be approved for A, B, and C unless approved by council, so that there's still the opportunity there that if something comes in the future that we want to
Where are you
partner
looking,
or
sorry?
support. It's under section 2, just the general policy. So it talks about what we can fund.
Oh, right there. Oh, so you're saying external agencies, organizations, boards,
Yeah, those are the things that
Shall
it says
not
we
be.
cannot fund, and I'm saying unless approved by council. If we decide there's a safety initiative, we want to bring a bike training rodeo course in that people can ride their bikes, we're saying we can't use this fund to do that, and that might be a,
No, to me, that'd be something that the Community Safety Committee would be organizing anyways in partnership with. But ultimately, something like that is going to become up to council anyways. How I envision this, and this is where people can interpret things differently, right? Is again, it's not just Johnny's company wants $5,000 to do something and we're just, yeah, here's $5,000, go do it, right? My thought is it's more of if the community safety is engaged in it, we're hiring external partners or something to bring this program to the community, we're still able to do that. But yes, I do understand where you're coming from. So I think if we have a comma at the very end of that, unless approved by council, period, would provide those opportunities if needed. We can have those discussions at that point versus policy says no, and now we got to review policy and all that. So yeah, I'd be amicable to that, and I would support that amendment, so.
I think that was it for me.
is that it for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 35, I just gotta scroll down, sorry. Oh, no, it's into the next piece, that's okay.
Okay, Councillor Brooks?
Thank you. Yeah, so kind of back to another point, and I hope I don't sound like a broken record. As I understand it, advisory committees are advisory committees, right? They're supposed to bring things to council, and so they're not supposed to really be distributing funds on their own, and they're not supposed to be creating their own programs. And I'm okay with one or the other. I don't know if I'm okay with both. But that's just by nature of the, of it being an advisory committee. So if it was something else, right, it could be as an example, you could have a working committee, which is different than an advisory committee, but just within the current definitions, I don't know if this is necessarily appropriate. I'm not hard set on that, but that's where my mind is right now.
So you're struggling a bit with the mandate, if we were to change the mandate under the terms of reference to suit it more?
So potentially, if we were to essentially look at the mandate in the Town of Drayton Valley Community Safety Committee, has the mandate provide advice and local perspectives? So essentially remove is an advisory body of council with the, is that what you're kind of suggesting?
Yeah, well, like, it would have to not be an advisory committee, as I understand. I mean, I could be mistaken, but, and then that also has to be, the direction the council wants to go with this, and I'm not saying it's not, but I don't know that it is, right? So do we want it to be an advisory board that is advising council, that's recommending things to council, or do we want this board to essentially have a life of its own in the sense that it's going to create its own policies and distribute the funds with those policies? So I don't know, that it really depends on what council thinks about it, right? So those are the things that I'm weighing in my head right now. And I don't know if we need more time to think about it, or what direction do we want to go?
Well, I think that the recommendation from our CAO today is to move forward and approve with this with amendments that we've talked about, just so that the committee can distribute those funds. We're going into spring. I think there's some really great ideas for some projects. So if you're comfortable, we could change the mandate to the suggestion that Mr. Rossing had said, where we just take out the advisory board. Again, we'd want to look at our sustainability, our recreation, and all of those to ensure that they're all aligning, because I do think there's some inconsistencies there, and I don't think they're advisory in nature. So if we're wanting to take that out, then the group can move forward, and then we can bring back the other terms, or once they're kind of all aligned, then we can just bring those back to cleanup, if that's okay. And then that way it covers the policy, it covers the terms of reference, and then the committee can move forward with distributing anything under $1,000, similar to what I think the sustainability is doing and the other committees as well. If that works? Okay, so with that then, there was a few amendments that we just talked about, some language cleanup here to change the mandate as suggested by Mr. Rossing to remove the advisory body then. So then it's just more of a working group, a committee, and then they can get to work. And then I think that helps a little bit with Pat's options that she talked about, where the A and the B, right? So then they're able to get to work and move some of these things forward. So with that, then, we're looking at two separate motions today. One would be to approve the Community Safety Fund policy. One would be the terms of reference with amendments. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. So is there a member of council who would like to make the first motion then? Go ahead, Councillor Jeffrey.
I move that council approves Community Safety Fund Policy C05-26 as presented.
With amendments? As amended?
First part as amended?
Yeah. Both are
They're
as
both
amended. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Did you capture that, Ms. Thompson? Okay, wonderful. So any comment, question, debate on the motion? Okay, if there is none, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? All opposed? That is carried. Is there a member of council who would like to make the second motion? Go ahead, Councillor Finn.
I motion that council approve the community safety terms of reference as amended as presented.
Thank you for that. Comment, question, debate on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
So just in a broader context, the terms of reference, I mean, should we have this brought to perhaps a GNP to talk about, the function of each of these committees? And just, are they advisory, or are they, do they do things, I guess is the question. Should that be perhaps a third motion to direct administration to bring back the terms of reference for all of the committees to discuss?
We could, I think you could have a motion to bring back all the terms of reference.
And I'm thinking just GMP discussion.
Just a GMP. Yeah, my only concern, I think, what was the first part that you said of that?
Are these advisory, or are these, I guess, not advisory?
I guess my concern there is then if we approve this one, as with the amendments to just be a committee and not advisory, will it be coming back?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like, maybe it won't change, who knows? But
Okay.
I think it's just worth a discussion, that's all.
Okay.
It's not looking to change the world, just
So-
what's our philosophy?
So did you want to make a motion then that council approves the community safety terms of reference with amendments and bring back to a future GNP the terms of reference of our internal
I can just
Committees?
make a third.
Or a third
motion
one?
if you want, I don't know. Or a friendly amendment. Yeah, sure. I'll make a friendly amendment to
Oh,
the
yeah, 'cause you-
motion on the floor to direct administration to bring back the internal committees to a GNP session in the future to discuss amongst council.
Yeah, that seems like a whole different motion.
Well, it's that plus this.
Oh, plus that,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
So did
that
you
make sense?
catch that, Ms. Thompson? Could you read it back to us?
Councilor Clark added a friendly amendment to bring back the terms of reference for each committee to GNP in the future for review.
And you had the first part of the motion that Councillor Finn had made that
Also approve the community safety terms of reference as amended.
as amended?
Yeah.
And, okay. Okay, so there is a friendly amendment. Do you accept that friendly amendment, Councillor Finn?
Sure do.
Okay, wonderful. So there is an amended motion now from Councillor Clark. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? It's a lengthy one. Then I'll now call all in favor. That is carried. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So we'll look forward to those, this terms of reference as well as the others being brought, so then we can have that conversation to make sure that they all align and with each other. And with that, we will call a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll jump into 8.4, which is our Community Safety Fund allocation. Okay, wonderful. We will reconvene back to our meeting at 10:44 a.m. We'll jump back into our decision items. Next up, we have Mr. Rossing here for 8.4, which is our Community Safety Fund allocation. Is that right?
Yes. I think.
Sounded like the same thing we just did.
The last thing was a policy in terms of reference. This one is now allocating some funds on some items that we'd like to do.
Oh,
So,
okay. Now is the ask. I was like, I thought we did this already.
So as council is freshly aware of what the Community Safety Committee is, I will bear you the background on that. What we are looking to do is move forward with 3 projects right now. Project number 1 is to purchase an additional digital speed display sign in the community. So we have 2 mobile ones that we move in different parts of the community. We have 1 permanent one that's over by the swimming pool. That's a newer one, and then an older one as well. So what we're looking to do is introduce kind of a 3rd mobile one to be used in different parts of the community, to be able to be rotated around at the same time as these other ones. So this would align with our goals as identified in the traffic safety plan, as well as community safety strategic plan. One thing with this is there is an ongoing operational cost of $550 per year. So that would just be included into future budget years at that point, along with the other speed signs that we already have. To purchase a brand new sign, it's a couple dollars short of $5,000, so we're asking for $5,000 for that project. Project number 2 is to continue moving forward with the positive ticketing program that we do in the community already. So previously, we were allocated $1,000. That got us through about a year on very not priority doing it. So we'd like to make it a bigger priority in the community, do some more positive ticketing. So we're asking for $2,000 on that one to move forward with additional positive tickets for that. The focus on that is for youth that are caught doing positive things, wearing their helmets, crossing the crosswalk safely, holding doors open at schools, being good people, that kind of stuff. So normally with that project is once we've identified that, we make contact with that individual, we give them an actual ticket that says positive ticket, what they did right, and then we also give them a gift card as well. So that also aligns with our traffic safety plan as well as our strategic community safety strategic plan. So we are asking for $2,000 for that, to continue with that. And then the 3rd project that we're asking for some funds for today is the Lock It or Lose It for bikes. So what we're looking at doing is purchasing a number of different locks, and it's going to tie in with our a little bit of the bike registry program that we're going to be kind of trying to push a little bit more with the community. And it ties in with the Lock It or Lose It theme. That's part of the community strategic plan as well. So the intent on that is as we're out in the schools and stuff like that, if kids are riding up on their bikes and they don't have locks, we're providing them some locks so that they can lock up their bikes, they're not getting stolen, all that kind of stuff. So looking for $500 for that one. So in total for these 3 projects, if council is amicable to it, we are seeking $7,500 to be approved out of the Community Safety Fund for these projects. With that, we do have plus or minus about $120,000 that are currently sitting in the Community Safety Fund bank, I don't know. So we do have the money that's sitting there that's available for this. So we're just hoping that council moves forward with approving this to get these projects underway. So that is my report.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Sounds like some great projects. Go ahead, Councillor Finn.
Sorry, just one question. So on the digital speed sign display, operating cost is about $550 a year will be placed in future operating budgets. Is that something that the Travis so we're sitting about $1,600 a year now in operational costs? Is that something that the Travis Fund can fund, or is it not able to fund that?
Could, if that's what we'd like to move forward, yeah.
Okay, are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
For the positive ticketing program, how long do you expect the $2,000 to last, sir?
Again, going over the last year, it took us about a year to get through $1,000 without it being a priority. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking $2,000 for the year to make it a priority.
Thank you.
So for the positive ticketing program, if I'm driving within the speed limit, is someone going to pull me over and give me a gift card?
Unfortunately not. That just means you're not getting pulled over and getting an actual ticket.
Councillor Clark, do you have a question?
Just with respect to project number 1, the digital speed sign displays. I guess we do traffic counts from time to time. And would this be useful in that sense? Like, can we use that for a formal traffic count?
Yeah, 100%. These signs have a lot of capabilities on them. One thing that's very important is they do not take pictures. They're not part of photo enforcement or photo radar, whatever you want to call it. So they do not do that. So I want to make that one very clear. But they do capture a lot of information. On the next item, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But they capture the number of vehicles that are going through, the average speed, the maximum speed, the lowest speed, the 85th percentile, all that kind of stuff. So we can start breaking it out on different hours of the day, days of the week, all that kind of stuff. So there's tons of data that we actually get from these. So not only does it help kind of the immediate driver feedback as people are going by, they're able to see it, they're able to slow down if they're going over the limit, but it also gives us that analytical data on the back end. One from the enforcement side to see, is there a certain time that we can strategically place our officers out there? These are fantastic when we get complaints about speeding in neighborhoods, for example. Oh, people are always speeding on my road, da-da-da. We can sit out there, we're in billboards as community peace officers. We're really not catching too much. You're sitting there spending hours trying to find something. When's a good time, when's not? If we can put these speed display signs up, we can get all that data, and then it's like, is there a problem or not? And if there is a problem, then we can start, okay, well, every day between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. is a good time to be there. Well, now we can strategically put our resources there versus I'm just going to show up at 10 in the morning and hope for the best, right? So lots of that kind of data. And then ultimately, again, every time they are capturing how many vehicles are going by. So that information is available for asset management. So it starts, if you start doing all the math, we average we can get 5 million more vehicles driving on this road before we're going to have to pave it. And once we get to that stage, for example, well, we've already got all that data. On average, we're seeing 2,000 vehicles per day. Well, you do the calculations, we know in 6 years or whatever, we're going to have to potentially replace this road, right? So tons of information we can get from there. And another thing that we do with this as well is the data that comes from them, we actually post them on our website as well. So the public is able to go on there, they're able to see it, make their own assumptions or not of what's going on in their neighborhoods. So tons of information, and again, it does, again, especially if we're looking at those traffic counts, they can get quite costly. So if we're placing these in those key areas as well, we're able to save some costs in the future on not having to pay for those traffic counts.
Right, so the gist of it is we're going to save money in the long run.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, perfect, thank you.
Never going to guarantee, but should.
Okay, any other questions? Would you like to make a motion, Councillor Jeffrey?
I move that council approve up to $7,500 of expenditures out of the Community Safety Fund for projects outlined in RFD-26-061.
Perfect, thank you very much for the motion. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? I think, yeah, again, once these are great programs, great to see that you're engaging the community and doing some positive things and incorporating a little additional safety. With that being said, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Next up is 8.5, which is the Traffic Safety Bylaw 2026-03P. This is for first reading, and as well as the speed limit policy review. Just to keep in mind that this is for first reading. There will be opportunity to discuss again. We do have a lengthy agenda, and we are on a time crunch this morning too. Just to remind you. Go ahead, Councillor, or sorry, Mr. Rossing? Or
Please, I'm
Councillor.
not a counselor, nope. Thanks, but no thanks. So we've talked about the traffic safety bylaw with council at 2 previous governance and priorities committees meetings, so this shouldn't be anything new to council, but we'll do a quick review of it anyways. So it's been an ongoing project of administration to kind of look at our enforcement bylaws, but also our traffic bylaw for the last number of years. Currently in Drayton Valley, we have 6 bylaws that actually govern traffic-related items within the community, whether it's just your normal traffic bylaw, heavy vehicle bylaw, dangerous goods bylaw, off-highway vehicle bylaw, all that kind of stuff. So currently, like I said, we've got those 6 bylaws that total up 93 pages of legislation dealing with traffic within the community. To me, that's not good ways of trying to get voluntary compliance with the public, because that's a lot of different spots that people need to go and read to try and find out whether they can or can't do something. So what administration is doing today is we have a proposed traffic safety bylaw for your consideration. It's moving everything that we believe we need in the community down to a total of 28 pages. So essentially we're having a 70% reduction in the amount of content, I guess, in a lot of these bylaws, while still making sure that we got the adequate things that we need to deal with traffic concerns within the community. So a couple things that we'll be talking about shortly is on some of these changes are the truck routes as well as dangerous goods routes. Talking about some speed limit related stuff. We're removing items that are pertaining to parking that are already dealt with through provincial legislation. Increasing some timelines for snow removal signs. For example, if you're on a seasonal parking ban, you're currently given 8 hours notice, proposing to move that to 12 hours. If you're on your normal non-seasonal, currently we give 12 hours, proposing to move that up to 24 hours. Increasing some fine amounts just to align. Most of these bylaws are from 2016-ish era. So again, just keep them in line with kind of what's going on throughout Alberta right now. Introducing some controls on some administrative processes and taking out titles where the bylaws put a title in and refer it all back to the CAO, allowing that CAO to designate down to the appropriate person. So if we change title within the organization, we don't need to go back and change our bylaws or figure out who actually has the authority to do things now. Taking out process-related stuff that's in bylaws. Again, that's process, not a legislative thing. Introducing some administrative ability so that if someone is damaging our roads or sidewalks, we can actually start seeking some compensation on that right now, right through our actual bylaw process. Doing a little bit of changes as it pertains to some school buses. So reaffirming provincial legislation that they need to use our 8-way flashers when doing drop-ups or pickups on the road. However, we have introduced some abilities in certain scenarios where they don't need to do it. This was in consultation with the school divisions, and they're in support of what's being proposed today. So that's a positive step on that one. Going to be proposing that we allow school buses to be parked in residential areas between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. So again, your bus operators are able to take their buses home for the day kind of thing, but they're not able to be parked overnight. Currently, they're not allowed to be there at all. Brief introduction of miniature vehicles. That's a definition out of provincial legislation. I quite anticipate it's pretty vague right now in our bylaw. That's on purpose because the province is having conversations on what are they actually going to be changing on miniature vehicles kind of stuff. So left it vague, not knowing exactly where the province is going, but essentially left a bit of that earmark in there. So once the province comes out with what they're going to be doing, we do have essentially already built into the bylaw. So if as an organization, as a community, want to move forward with providing some of those items in the bylaw, it's already formatted. We just need to add the sections. So looking at helmet requirements. So currently we're very strict compared to other municipalities as it pertains to people requiring to wear helmets. So what we're doing is essentially moving it to align just with provincial legislation, making sure that all youth are required to wear a helmet on a bike. Introducing different things about road use agreements and right-of-way agreements, allowing the application for permits to violate parts of the bylaw. Restoring damages to municipal property for those road use agreements and highway damage and costs owed to the municipality, and then requirements for some A-frame type signs and election signs. So we canvassed a number of different municipalities, towns, cities, counties, when we were creating this bylaw, as well as it's been through different departments within the town to make sure we've hopefully captured everything that they think it needs captured as well. So through our previous governance and priorities committee meetings, we've had some conversations on previous drafts on some of the things in there. So we've taken out, it was previously proposed no bus stops or pickups on 50th Ave and 50th Street. We've taken that out, so again, they're going to continue to be able to do that one. We've confirmed the truck route in Brazeau County's area that surrounds the community to make sure that we're aligning that people are able to operate the truck route appropriately there. We've created a visual map for council of what the speed limits are within the community. We created a draft policy for council pertaining to speed limits, and we've had some conversations on that, in particular in a couple areas within the community that some concerns were brought forward with, and we talked about what the 85 percentile, the max, the minimum, all that kind of stuff. And a couple council meetings ago, there's some conversations surrounding some motor vehicle collisions where they are in the community. So we've also, not so much affect the bylaw, but again, for an awareness piece for council, introduced or brought in the 2016-2018 and then 2019 to 2023 motor vehicle collision locations within Drayton Valley for injury and fatal collisions. So that again, you guys have a bit of an awareness piece of where those collisions are. Again, doesn't necessarily affect the bylaw so much, but again, it's that awareness piece for council on that. So. One of the things that council may recall during the GMP conversations is we weren't able to bring this forward until the province Transportation and Economic Corridors was able to review the bylaw. As the bylaw is going to be regulating dangerous goods stuff, they are required to review it, and before the bylaw can actually come into effect, the province does need to actually sign off on it. So we had them do a review. They've had 2 reviews. The first review, they wanted to have the contact information for the fire chief. That's 24/7. They had one spelling mistake they caught, buggers. They wanted a quick amendment onto our specified penalty on some wording on there. And then just some conversation regarding the start and end of dangerous goods routes. So we did some recommendation or some changes on that, sent it back. They're currently comfortable in its current format with dangerous goods related items that they oversee, that they'd be comfortable signing off on. So again, in essence, if this bylaw was to pass all 3 readings, it doesn't come into effect until the province actually signs off on it. They tell me it's about a 2-week process from when we send it in to get it signed, so that's not bad. But again, just so council is fully aware that if it passes, the day it passes, it doesn't come into effect. We do have that couple-week waiting period, waiting for the minister to sign off. As soon as we get it back signed off, then it would turn into, that would come into effect. So. We do have the bylaw for feedback today that ultimately we're looking for first reading of the traffic safety bylaw. And then we're not looking for approval today, but again, just for some additional conversation is the speed limit policy. The speed limit policy does not need to come into effect until 3rd reading of the bylaw. So we'd be looking for the bylaw to pass all 3 readings once we get to that stage. After 3rd reading, then we would essentially pass the speed limit policy. But we do need to make sure that it's essentially, they're happening at the same time. So I want to make sure that council is fully comfortable with what's in the policy as we lead into 3rd reading, so that we're not, let's bring it back at another date or something like that, because we can't do that. We're going to run into some issues at that point. So, but yeah, definitely open to some further comments and some feedback on that. So with the particular speed limit policy, we've essentially taken what was in the current speed bylaw, transferred into the policy on what the speed limits are at the various areas. One proposed amendment that we're looking to do though is in the campground area south of the TAC or the Omniplex. It is posted 20 kilometers per hour. That's currently what is prescribed. What we are suggesting is that we are moving that up to 30 kilometers per hour, sorry. That keeps it aligned with all the other roadways that are in the area of the Omniplex. And it also keeps it in line, like there is a playground in the area, but again, playground zones are maximum 30. So it keeps it in line with provincial and the requirements throughout the rest of the community. And the road network in that area is probably wider than most streets in the community as well that are posted as 50 kilometers per hour. So I'm not seeing any logical understanding on why it's 20. I don't know any background of why it is. So administration is making the recommendation to move that up to 30 to keep it consistent with a lot of other areas. But other than that, there would be no other proposed amendments on behalf of administration to changes to the speed limit. And again, there's a map that is attached in the agenda package of classifies all those different roadways for a visual reference as well. So, subject to any questions, that is my, oh, actually, skip that. I want to bring your attention to Schedule B and Schedule C of the bylaw. I have it printed out with different numbers, so give me a couple seconds. So one of the items that we've talked with at previous Governance and Priorities Committee is these truck routes and the dangerous goods route. Pick one or the other, they're the exact same, just with different colors and different titles. But if we look at our current traffic truck routes as well as dangerous goods routes, all of these commercial vehicles are permitted to be down in that downtown core area, just as they're driving through the community, for example. What we're proposing is essentially removing some of that downtown core area. We don't want people bringing in D8 cats on a flatbed and going through intersections and hitting lights and stuff if they don't need to. So we're proposing taking that kind of stuff out. Ultimately, though, it is important to be mindful that if a truck is doing delivery, for example, a commercial business downtown, as long as they're doing those deliveries, they are still permitted to be in those areas. So it's not just a blanket. If you're not seeing the routes on these maps, all of a sudden, well, how are all these businesses supposed to get their deliveries and stuff like that? As long as you are doing those deliveries, you are still able to be off the truck route. This is in essence just where your normal, I want to go for a drive through Drayton Valley, we're removing them from those downtown core areas. So, but yeah, that's the last thing I had to bring to your attention. So happy to answer any questions.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Any questions this morning, Councillor Finn?
So just one quick one. So since we're opening this up, there's not much legislation around e-scootering. Is that going to be included in this as well? Is that under like power bicycle?
Yeah, so the e-scooters, they fall under the micro mobility devices, which falls, again, pretty vague right now because the province is looking at it. So currently e-scooters are not permitted. They are considered a prohibited vehicle, miniature vehicle, so they shouldn't be operated at all. The only time you can technically operate an e-scooter is if your municipality has a bylaw allowing it, but it's only permitted for companies to be operating. So when you're looking in your Calgarys, your Edmontons, those larger centers, they've got contracts with like Bird or something like that to be able to operate them. But those are for business-owned e-scooters only, are what's permitted. Again, once you get through all those approvals and stuff like that. A couple of years ago, I had a phone call with an individual that was interested in bringing them to town and never heard from him again, so I have no idea on that. So again, province is looking at the legislation surrounding that, so we've put in one of the sections in here about micro-mobility devices. Again, pretty vague in anticipation. Part 8, wheeled conveyances. So again, pretty vague, so that, again, once the province decides what they're doing, if we need to make some adjustments on what we're doing, it's essentially, I'm hoping, it can essentially just add section 36.3, for example, right? So we're not trying to reformat the whole bylaw or anything like that. It's just a slight amendment, and we can introduce those at that time, so.
Perfect. And then my only other comment, and I thought I saw it somewhere in here, regarding the truck route and dangerous good route, there is an exemption for overnight stays as well, correct, for accommodations?
Correct, yeah, we added in some, where is that? An exemption in here to pertain that you're allowed to go off the truck route as well if you are going to attend an overnight accommodation. Again, when we look at the truck route, there are a number of hotels and motels that are off the truck routes. So again, we've allowed them the ability to go off the truck route if they are going to attend to that overnight accommodation, so that way we're not forcing them to have to park at the south end parking lot, for example, try and get a taxi or something like that. Again, they can take it. When we look at some of our overnight accommodations in the community, some places have parking lots that are designed for this kind of stuff already, right? So wanted to make sure that that was included as well, so.
Perfect, thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
I'm wondering why buses aren't allowed to park in town.
That is a very common thing within other municipalities as well. Currently, again, in our current bylaw is they're just not permitted at all. What we're proposing to do is move forward with allowing them during the daytime. They are big. They do cause, depending on where they are, they could cause some obstruction issues as well.
People could park a motorhome that's just as big in front of their house.
They could. They do have some requirements on needing to move it within a certain amount of times and stuff as well, right? So school buses should be moving a lot more frequently.
Yep.
We do actually, even currently, we do get a number of complaints actually from people regarding the buses being in neighborhoods. Kind of interesting because out of all things out there that people could complain about, that is something that we probably get about a dozen-ish calls a year on. So it's an interesting thing. So that tells me that the community does have issue with buses being in residential areas. So again, be mindful of that as well. I prefer we move into, again, having the ability to at least be there during the day. I know school divisions are having tons of difficulty trying to hire bus operators. So if we can try and make it a little bit easier for them as well, to make it so that people are able to take on these jobs, at least park their buses at home during the day. I think that's a positive, but.
I'm just curious if there was a reason, or if it was more of a business decision in terms of it's a business operating technically or something like that. So I'm just curious. Okay.
When it comes to information signs,
Yeah.
what are the changes there and how, I know we talked about this before, like if the Thunder's having a game and they're putting it in on the street or someone's advertising for an event?
Yeah,
Are we
so.
creating red tape for them?
So at the previous Governance and Priorities Committee meeting, there were some distances in there for 10 meters. After the GMP meeting, we moved it down to 5 meters at the recommendation that came from the GMP meeting. So move those down to make it a little bit more accommodating and a little bit more helpful for those individuals out there. Some of these things that are in here are, some of it, not all of it, is already regulated under the land use bylaw. So if this bylaw does pass, there will be a transition period where essentially there's going to be an operational thing where the land use bylaw for these particular sections won't be enforced, because it will fall under the traffic safety bylaw until such time that the land use bylaw can come back to council for those to essentially be removed from there. So again, it's for the most part keeping it in line with what other municipalities are doing. Again, there are going to be some requirements in place for these individuals that are trying to put signs out, but again, a lot of it ties into just making sure that the right-of-ways aren't being clogged with a bunch of stuff. The visibility is the big thing, making sure that the visibility, especially when you're coming out of intersections and stuff like that, is clearly visible for people, so.
Perfect, thank you for that. And I do appreciate that, when we're trying to keep it in line with other municipalities, but sometimes we're unique in nature in certain things too. So I want to make sure that we're flexible in accommodating our businesses or organizations and residents to when we can be, especially like parades, information signing and things like that, that we're still able to do these. When I look at the parades, special events and things like this, is this going to be still okay for like our high schools that are going to be celebrating the parades and graduation and things like that? There'll be nothing in here that's creating an issue for them?
Same as currently,
Same as
they're going to
current?
have to apply for permits and go through that process, so.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll go to Councillor Jeffrey and then Councillor Wheeler.
Just have a quick question about playgrounds. So a playground zone is set. Do the fences around playground zones play a role in whether that is designated as playground or not?
Yeah, there's guidelines from the province of Alberta that actually talks about both school zones and playground zones, a number of things, the road conditions, whether there's fence, sidewalks, the setback of all that kind of stuff. So there's a scoring metrics that come into place, and if you have a fence or not, you get X score. If you have sidewalk, you get X score. Ultimately, you then come up to a conclusion of it shouldn't be anything. It should be an area, which essentially is just an advisory, not a mandatory, or it's a zone. The zone will then make it reduce your speeds down to 30 for the duration of school zone, playground zone, whatever. So they do play a part in it of that scoring of ultimately whether it's considered nothing, area, or zone. It is on the work plan, and it's been identified in the traffic safety plan as well as the community safety strategic plan to do a review of school zones and playground zones and make sure that everything's being classified appropriately. And if there is any safety mechanisms that we should be putting in place to, again, make it safer for people that are using these, how do we start imposing those kind of thing, right? So, for example, if we have a park that doesn't have fence, is that something where it's an operating cost, or is that something where the community safety fund, for example, could be starting to look at funding, putting up some fencing in front of that area so that, again, it protects those users of those areas, right? So project down the road, but yeah, there are guidelines that essentially determine all that, and fencing is part of that.
Councillor Wheeler?
In part 9, so number 42, I'm like, yes, I love how these are all numbered sequentially, like through the whole document, so everyone can be on the same page. But it's just about obstruction. It says, no person or owner of a property shall have, erect, build, or place a fence, wall, or other object on private property within 5 meters of an intersection as to interfere with good visibility. I'm wondering how back alleys play into that. You know, we did have a resident who's very concerned about the back alley of his, is the houses at the end, they don't face like the main street, they face the kind of like the short end, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so their backyard, their fence comes right to the edge of the back alley. And it's high and it's a concern.
Sure, yeah. So this current section is verbatim from what's currently in our bylaws, so this isn't an introduction of anything new, it's just what's currently being regulated. With that, a couple things come onto there. There's already height requirements under the land use bylaw on how high your fence and stuff can be. So again, as long as they're meeting those requirements, that's one aspect. Second aspect to this is there's also that reasonable thing that comes in play as well, right? If you're in an alleyway, as long as people are stopping before they're entering on the road as they're supposed to, proceeding safely, you're reducing all of those kind of things as well. Ultimately, are they in violation of the bylaw? Could they potentially get a ticket? Yeah, potentially. However, there is a mechanism in place to apply for permits, right? So again, if you go through the process and you can articulate why, and most likely it's probably gonna make sense at that point, you're gonna get a permit, then you're gonna be able to have your fence in that area, right? Potentially there's conditions that are imposed on, to make this safe. 10 feet on both sides, you need to lower to 4 feet or something, I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there, right? But, yeah, this is currently something that's already in place, and again, not so much on alleys, but, this does tie into that previous comment about just making sure that visibility at intersections is adhered to as well, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure this would also apply to alleys ultimately.
Technically,
It's
it
an
would.
intersection, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Is there a member of council who would like to make a motion? Councillor Finn?
I move that council approves first reading of traffic safety bylaw 202603P as presented in RFD 26064.
Perfect, thank you for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. On 45, so that's the information signs that we were talking about being put up. I'm wondering if there's something we could talk about where if private property would be different, or if these are all meaning private property. Probably should ask this sooner because it's probably an admin question, but so 45.4, that the sign is a minimum of 5 meters away from any intersection. But if it's on private property, would it still need to be 5 meters away from the intersection?
Again, going back to current requirements under land use bylaw and stuff like that, a lot of time, even on private property, it does. These ones, again, they're a lot smaller, they're your
Yeah.
small signs like this,
Yeah,
right?
for
But like,
sure.
often it's talking in those, especially in the land use, about like your big, huge signs that we're getting all the time. So I think on this one, if we're talking about private property for these smaller signs, I don't think that's an issue, like that's not jumping to mind to me. So if I'm hearing a
That's the way
potential
I
amendment,
read it too.
might be, is council amicable to a future amendment coming for second reading that clarifies in this area surrounding private property versus kind of municipal right-of-ways, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah. And part of just reading through this as us representing the public is questions or concerns we would have. So yeah, I think that's perfect. If there's some kind of clarification point, it'd be helpful.
Absolutely, thank you.
Going on 48.2, so same thing, there can't be, so this is into the election signs, I have a couple in the election sign section. It can't be within 5 meters of any intersection of a merge lane? What does that mean?
Do we have, where's a merge lane, for example? So if we were to look at 50th, no,
Like a turning
by
lane?
IGA, say,
kinda,
going
yeah. like,
south?
As you're entering onto the roadway, we don't really have much of those at all, like,
Okay.
but it's also,
I just wasn't sure if it was,
Yeah.
like, if it's within 5 meters of an intersection, no problem, but intersection of a merge lane, I was like, why would an intersection of a merge lane be
yeah.
different than an
I'll
intersection?
double look at that wording just to make sure that we're capturing things proper, so.
Okay. And I also struggled with section 49. So that's talking about the size of the sign.
Yeah.
And one just has the squared where the, I think it just needs to be corrected if, whether it's M squared or says meters, but, so in excess of 1 meter in sign area when placed the boulevard less than 10 meters wide and a maximum of 5 meters when placed beyond 10 meters of a highway. I read it 3 times and I was like, I'm not sure if it's clear, so.
Okay.
It's just a highlight, that's all I'm making, highlight. In section 50, it says that the returning officer may proceed to remove a sign if there's an issue, which is fine, but then without notice and dispose of the sign. And I understand the without notice, because if there's a problem, we want you to be able to deal with it right away, but
Disposing because they're
they're
costly.
very costly, those signs. So could there be some kind of wording around that if the sign is not picked up within 48 hours from the town, it will be disposed of or something? I don't know. There's a whole section 51, which is that no candidate for an election shall fail to provide the town with the name and contact information of who's responsible for the signs.
Till those phone numbers don't work.
Yeah, again, and if
Yeah,
that's gonna be.
we'll take a look at that to see if there's some better wording that we can introduce in that area to kind of
Just didn't want
accommodate
it
that kind of stuff.
automatically
So,
being thrown.
yeah.
Okay.
Throwing out, yeah.
That would be I would appreciate that as an elected official. And then I'm just scrolling, there's one more, 63. It's page 63, sorry. I should have wrote down the numbers. Oh, in section 88, I think it might just be a typo, but it says the peace officer has reasonable and probably grounds to
Yep.
believe, but
Thank you.
Probable.
yeah. Yeah, that was it for first reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So there is a motion Councillor Finn had made for first reading. I will now call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that. We look forward to it being brought forward for second reading. We'll jump to 8.6, which is Town of Drayton Valley existing land disposition and strategy. This is Mr. Troy Grant again this morning. Right?
I wouldn't do that. He has a better shirt. Bring it back down to my level, Cody. Great. Madam Mayor, in front of you is the RFD regarding the Town of Drayton Valley existing land disposition and strategy. During our, without going through all of the document again, during our strategic planning session, it was directed that we come up with a cunning plan to account for and make a recommendation for the disposal or some strategy that moves this land or identifies it for retention over time. So from that direction, what I've done is categorize the land into the different categories that you see here: residential, commercial, industrial, public community, URWs, and direct control. Quantified all of that, provided you with a list, and then kind of developed 3 strategies that are not juxtaposed. These strategies are things that would happen in concert with one another. So I probably shouldn't have called them strategies. I probably should have called them courses of action, but the first course of action would be to do the assemblies, figure out which lands ought to be assembled with each other. So we have 288 individually specified or unique properties by title. Some of them are where one parcel ends, another parcel begins. They could just be one. So that's what the assembly is all about. Where do we find an abandoned, or no, I shouldn't say abandoned, but a piece of property that we've taken on MR, and it's immediately adjacent to another park or somebody's land or a commercial development or whatever that might be throughout our region, and then figure out what to do with it. Should we be talking to the landowner and saying, hey, would you like to add an extra 2-meter strip to your land, and here's what it costs or whatever? Then these recommendations would come back to council saying, here are the individual parcels. It'll be a lengthy list, and here's what we recommend doing with each one of these parcels, whether it's residential or commercial, industrial, whichever it is. From there, going into the next course of action, which is strategy B, we would then recommend disposition. So recommending which surplus lands needed to be disposed of and then going under Part 4 of our land use bylaw and Section 70 of the MGA to make sure that we're disposing, advertising, and dealing with community consultation appropriately, and then making that next recommendation to council and acting on council's direction. Finally, the third element, recommending certain parts of land, our current URWs, for retention over time because they're likely to be good parcels of land that we can, on behalf of the people of Drayton Valley, retain for future development or disposal at higher values. One of the key elements in all of this is making sure that we're doing this prudently so that we're not disposing of land at a rate that diminishes the value of other people's land that they have on the market. That is to say, if we flood the market with town-owned lands, will cause a difficult problem for other developers or landowners. That would be a secondary unintended effect, but we know about it, so we shouldn't do it. So with that, that's how this strategy looks. There's a lot more to it than this, but you have all of the documents in front of you. If there are any questions, I'm here to answer.
Perfect, thank you very much. Questions? I guess my only question was, thank you very much for this, I really appreciate it, good job. My only question would be, of course, we would be following the processes, but what, we're provided like a book with all of our lands and the size and everything. Is there something that's ready to get for sale, get advertised? Like when I look at the next steps for the commissioning, the preparing a formal surplus and all of that. And then it says in here, within 12 months. So is there something we could be ready on disposing of and following the procedures through the MGA and all of that as well?
Absolutely. So just so we're not talking about apples and oranges here, this was the larger strategy for all of our lands.
Yep.
It's not lost on me that we have properties that are ready to go. I wanted to get this established, and then I can launch on the low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
As recently as yesterday, we've had a commercial developer come and ask, hey, can we do some stuff that's already compliant with land use bylaws and other stuff, so we can certainly move on that. As well as residential lands that are available for sale. And it's important to note that under Section 70 of the MGA, there is no, so long as we're disposing of land at market value, there's no requirement for advertising or marketing of those properties. So that isn't to say on a larger piece of land where we want to do a more dynamic plan that we should just rush out and do something. I know how that feels. But what we can do where we have an individual lot where a single family home might go or a fourplex or something like that, if we're moving it or we're creating an opportunity to partner with a developer or a builder, all of those different strategies that may be available, we can go ahead and do that as long as it's compliant and we're not doing it at a reduced value that would unjustly compete with others. So the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Is there a member of council who would like to make a motion? Go ahead, Councillor Finn.
I move that council accept the corporate land strategy as presented and direct administration to initiate independent appraisals for priority disposition parcels, prepare a formal surplus declaration for identified residential, commercial, and industrial lots, retain all urban reserve parcels and return with a URW land management plan within 12 months and report back to council with a phased disposition schedule.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? I just have a couple. We're in the process of creating a policy when it comes to land agreements and management. Where are we with that, and when can we expect that?
Yeah, I think that larger policy needs to form part of the next phase of this. Under our current statutes, the delegated authority is allowed to move ahead and do these, so long as it complies with the bylaws and so long as the land complies with Section 70, you can go out and do all the disposition things. But I think we need to tighten that up, identifying that on certain, and it's kind of hard to define exactly what that is, because some of it is technical and some of it might be a little bit more emotional. And so how do we tie that together to make sure that we're dancing on that knife edge of being efficient, but not ruthlessly efficient? So it's going to take a little bit to get there, Madam Mayor. However, I think it should come back as part of that larger strategy here. If I can do it faster, I certainly will.
Perfect.
But in the meantime, to your earlier point on the low-hanging fruit, we'll start moving on that as soon as, tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful. And would there be a cost associated with the appraisals for the priority disposition parcels?
There
And where
are.
would that come from, and what would that look like?
So so we do have some room within the town services budget to accommodate the initial smaller pieces. However, once we move forward and we start to see revenue generated through land sales, I'll come back with a strategy, because right now, any land sales should be going back into the reserve fund. I can't say for sure off the top of my head that I won't ask for a little bit of cash to put on the side so we can do some of the development of concept plans and some of those things that'll be a little more costly.
But that'll come back to council?
It has to.
Okay,
yeah.
wonderful.
I'd be uncomfortable running down that path without direction from this body.
Okay, wonderful. So there is a motion from Councillor Finn. I won't read it because it is lengthy. Thank you very much for that. If there's no further comment, question, debate, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving
you.
along up is invitation to minister. This is Miss Jennifer Stone.
Good morning, council. So last week, we had a charity golf tournament meeting, and the recommendation out of there is that we send letters of invitation to Minister Turton, Minister Lowen, and our MP Dane Lloyd to attend the charity golf tournament. So if council would like us to do so, we will prepare letters of invitation to send to them. And if they would like to join us that day, we will provide them with one complimentary ticket to join the event that day. So I'm just looking for a motion from council to do that.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. And the only reason we're making a motion is that's what Brazeau County is doing. They're also inviting 3 ministers as well. So we decided who we would like to invite. And just to keep in mind too, like we were thinking of any potential grants or projects that we have. So the county is inviting Minister Dreeshen, Minister Bachenko, and Minister Williams, I believe.
I believe so.
As well. So if you're not wondering why we don't see their names, that's where we kind of all decided, and we would invite the other 3. So with that, is there a member of council who would like to make a motion? Go ahead, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you. I move to direct administration to prepare invitation letters to Minister Turton, Minister Lowen, and MP Dane Lloyd to the 2nd annual charity golf tournament.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. And lastly, for decision items, we have 8.8, which was the addition of the homeless camps and enforcement.
Did you want to start off, or do you
Yeah,
want me
I
to?
can start
Sure.
off, sure. So just in some recent, I guess, walking and going out and about in the community, I can see that our homeless camps have expanded in furniture, maybe is the word that I'll use, and accessories. We're starting to see vehicles, trailers, all sorts of things coming. I know that we're receiving concerns and comments from businesses and residents as well. We did a cleanup, or the church did a cleanup a few months ago, which got some of it, but I'm thinking that we need to have a discussion around what that second cleanup, or what I guess the plan is going forward. I would like to see some scheduled cleanups being done throughout the year. So I think that's something that we have to discuss. We had attended the opening of the Brazeau Sports Park and the barbecue, and I was shocked to see how, you could see there's no leaves and everything, just all the campers and trucks and everything like there. I know that there is a business that's concerned they're not able to get on their lease there. And there's, they're being threatened, and they're feeling like their employees don't feel safe when they're going there, as well as I had additional meetings yesterday with residents saying that they're trespassing into the yard west of the landfill on their deck, rummaging through their things. And as well, I had been to the CTC on the weekend doing a walk, and when I had come through the south side, I was surprised, because it hadn't been that long that I was just down there, that there was campers all throughout there, and they looked like quite developed, and there's more tents and there's more everything in there. So I think that we have several individuals here that are ready to help speak to this conversation, but I just wanted to bring it to council to say, what kind of are those steps? What would we like to see done? As I had mentioned, I think that it's time for some sort of a cleanup. And when I say cleanup, that would involve the people that are living, at the landfill and throughout, making sure that they're included in this as they have been in the past, having that clear communication that they're responsible to assist in this, figuring out what the costs are and how we're kind of proceeding forward. So maybe I'll leave that with that for now. And then, Ms. Stone, do you have some additional information from your SLT and
Sure.
everybody?
Thank you. So yesterday afternoon, the team behind me, we had a meeting to discuss this. We've been getting those emails as well, and a couple of members of the team have gone and walked through those areas. And we discussed the need for like two different things here. One is like some immediate needs, a cleanup. What does that look like? How quickly we could get that moving? So the team and I kind of strategized about, as you had mentioned, there's two different sites. So what we could do is at the south side, we can clear out those vehicles and those motorhomes. That's recommendations from the team that could happen fairly quickly. And then we looked at the landfill site, and we had talked about, like, from the tree line, 10 meters in, and more aggressively going after that cleanup. And to address some of those issues that you had brought up about making sure that we're connecting with the folks in there, and we're not just moving in one day unannounced. That's a recipe for disaster. So making sure that we give ourselves time to go and connect with those folks and go about that. We talked that could potentially happen within a week or so. We could use a combination of our own crews and equipment, and also look at some contracted services to do that.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Finn.
Just with, on maybe bylaw, like with the campers and such that are there, like, there's a policy, like, we have a bylaw in town against that, correct? Like, they're not permitted to have, like,
Community
the holiday
standards, yeah.
trailers and the school buses, right? So how, and I mean, it's probably hard to ticket them because they're not gonna pay it or whatever, right? But how is that kind of?
Yeah, so under our community standards bylaw, we have provisions in there about overnight camping. We have provisions about not having trailers and stuff where they're not permitted, right? So there is those legal avenues already in place to deal with this kind of stuff. The challenge, as always with these kind of individuals that are experiencing homelessness, is a ticket gonna solve it? For most ordinary people, I don't like that word, but that monetary penalty often means something, and it's a deterrence to a lot of people, right? With individuals experiencing homelessness, they don't have money for fines, so that's not really a deterrent to them. It's essentially just another piece of paper that's gonna find its way onto the ground. But there are different strategies that we can explore to look at. Ultimately, it's kind of contrary to what the province has moved away from, which is issuing violation tickets that have a mandatory court appearance, which ultimately they end up with warrants, and they could end up in remand center. But again, the province moved away from that, from what the standard used to be. So again, we can explore it, but at the same point too, the expectation from the province is we moved away from that. So if there's specific criteria under the public interest provisions of the legislation that we can use, then we have those abilities. Ultimately though, it's a short term in jail for a couple days, potentially, if that. And then ultimately it's not a cost for the municipality at that point, but it's the cost of taxpayers across Alberta, then essentially paying for a couple days stay within a penitentiary kind of thing, right? So we do have those legal mechanisms in place to remove the campers and stuff like that. Ticketing, probably not ideal, but again, we can explore it for where it makes sense.
Any other questions? Councillor Clark?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the photos and such, I mean, it's the old, give them an inch, they take a mile sort of thing. And I think that's what's happened. So I think, I'm in favor of removing those, the trailers and the motorhomes and buses, whatever else is in there. That's not what the intention was, I don't think, from the town side. And then secondly, one of the things that we always talk about is, okay, they've moved out of town, we got them in this location, but now what's next, right? To me, the thing that's coming down the pipe eventually at some point, who knows when, is Bill 53, the Compassionate Intervention Act. So, does this, I don't know, we send a lot of letters, but does this require a letter to the minister saying like, let's speed this up because we have issues and we do think that this would solve at least a portion of that? So, I don't know. Like, there's no answer, obviously, there's no answer because there's no municipality that's been able to solve this particular issue. But, to me, it's how comfortable are you making it for them? And if you're making it too comfortable, then this is what happens. So I think we need to dial that back again and make it a little bit uncomfortable and hope for this Bill 53 to go through.
I can comment on that if you like. So the other part of our conversation yesterday is this larger strategy. What are we going to do? So there is a willingness from the team that met yesterday to explore ideas and take a more strategic approach about what we're going to do. I know that this is something that the Mayor's Task Force has been looking at doing. My understanding is the task force is struggling a little bit to find their purpose, what they should be doing and what they can be doing. There's lots of different folks at the table, different ideas and ways to go about it, which isn't a bad thing. However, it seems to, after several months, we haven't gotten anywhere. I'd like to propose that we take a different approach with our Mayor's Task Force. We can do a couple of things. We can, what I'd like to see is bring this back to our internal team, the team that's here today. We have the ability to do the things, create the strategies, and bring that forward for council's consideration of what we think is best and how to manage that site a little bit better, a little bit more aggressively. To Councillor Clark's point, like, are we making it comfortable? We could make it a little bit more uncomfortable for them. And with the Mayor's Task Force, we do have members at large. And while their input is great, some of it is kind of hampering us from being able to move forward in an effective way. And we could look at potentially dissolving the Mayor's Task Force and moving this over and dealing with this through the Community Safety Committee. It is, as you can see in the terms of reference, part of what we could include in their mandate for enforcement and bylaw and community safety. I think it hits all of those things for us. The folks that are on the Mayor's Task Force that we would like to see as part of this decision-making body are already at the table for us to do those things. So we wanted to bring that forward for discussion as well, because we think we can bring forward something a little bit more meaningful to go about this in a better way, in a little bit more aggressive way that satisfies council and is more palatable in the community.
I'm just going to go to Councillor Boehm.
Thank you. You guys can hear me? We're good?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to say just kind of as a part of this, I was under the impression that we kind of had it set a little bit more so on our informal route, that we didn't really want this occurring within town limits. We were comfortable slightly with it being at the dump just because it is a little bit more out of the way. And so now that we're seeing it kind of starting to migrate back into town, I kind of figured that we would have a bit of more of a push going there and saying, hey guys, I know you want to do this. You don't want to live in houses, that kind of stuff. So if you're going to do this, you have to do this outside of town. You can't be doing this within our town limits. And so if this is what you're doing, we're going to start being a bit more proactive and pushing you out of here and sending you somewhere else where we're more comfortable with you being, as opposed to starting to spread across all over town. Because I know there's a few different areas now where they are starting to set up camps, and I thought we were trying to avoid them being located all over town as opposed to just one general area.
Thank you for that. Ms. Stone?
Yeah, so that could be part of the overall strategy, is if we want them at that landfill site, that area, when these things start popping up around town,
We're dismantling them.
we can go about it, like I said, a little bit more aggressively, go in there, be like, nope, you can't be here, and put them in that area.
Yeah. And I think that everyone's comments were all on the same page, that these are individuals that are struggling with addiction, mental health, and of course, where we've decided, the past council and I, the new council too, that this is the location that they are. And, the intent is that we want to make sure that, safety and well-being and the community residents are all protected. As Councillor Clark had mentioned, it's expanding, it's growing in that. So we need to step in and start enforcing again and making sure that, these individuals are following the rules and, that we're kind of allowing it there, but they also have to be, respectful and mindful of the area and considerate of that, all the residents in the community. So I think that a plan does need to come forward, whether that's a combination between the community safety, the mayor's task force and council, creating that action plan saying, okay, quarterly, we're going to schedule cleanups. We're going to include these individuals so they feel part of it. It's not forced, they're not threatened. I know that when we've done the cleanups in the past that they've been included, and then they can kind of take that ownership as well. On that, which I think is good, but I think that we definitely can't leave it. We have to get going on it immediately. I really appreciate Ms. Stone, you and the team coming together and coming with solutions, as we've given you a heads up earlier this week to clean out that south side by the CETC, as well as start cleaning up that landfill, the 10 meters from the road and then keeping up to date on that, I think is great. When it comes to the mayor's task force, I know that we've been at it for about 10 months right now, and it is sometimes a bit difficult because you do have the individuals, the members at large, that aren't seeing the behind the scenes. They're not seeing the resources and the services in the community that are providing for homelessness and are providing for, the wraparound services. So I think that's frustrating to them, where they're wanting to see action, but there is action always happening. Our RCMP, CPOs, Fire, Vanessa, everyone's doing a fantastic job. As well as our pods, the warming center, everyone is collaborating and helping, right? But I think if the community could see that more, and that would be like with the cleanups and, maybe with some more scheduled and structured reporting. One of the things we talked about at the mayor's task force was to ensure that those minutes and those updates are included in our regular council meetings, so then the public is seeing that, right? We're posting that on our social media. They just need to see that there's things that are being done, right? So maybe rather than having so many decisions today, we just work on the one, which is the enforcement, and then we can talk about what the next action plan between community safety, the mayor's task force, and then council, what that looks like if everyone's okay. Just in the essence of time, it is 11:45. We have a closed session. We have delegates here that are waiting, as well as other meetings this afternoon. So maybe we'll just talk about the enforcement and the cleanup, how everyone's feeling and what those steps are right now. Go ahead, Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, I just think it's a very frustrating topic for everyone, and because there isn't a solution or an answer. Being homeless is not illegal, but most of us live within the guidelines that society sets our norms. And when you're living outside of that, I just think that we as a community need to decide what we want to do as a community. And hopefully, I like the idea of moving it to an action committee where we can be doing more action. I think in setting those guidelines, if we want to say you're allowed to be in a space, but here are the rules to our space. There are no motorhomes. There are no vehicles allowed out there. You cannot be having fires unless it's in a pit. Like, there needs to be very specific guidelines to what keep our community safe as a whole, and then allow those people to manage within that. But there also has to be enforcement. And as soon as they step outside those guidelines, there has to be those consequences so that it isn't taking a mile and that we're keeping everyone as safe as we can. And hopefully, ultimately, it really comes down to being a provincial issue for me, and that we need to be pushing on the province. And I agree with writing the letter and saying this isn't okay and we need funding and support. And these people, they have access to resources if they choose to use them, but if they don't, then that is ultimately their choice, and they have to deal with those consequences and live within the guidelines that we set for our community. And I think a lot of people are looking to everyone else in other communities, like, what are they doing? But we need to do what works for us in Drayton Valley, and I think we need to decide what's going to move that forward fastest. So I'm supportive of the decisions.
The cleanup. So is council all supportive in favor? Let's get rolling on the cleanup? Okay, is that good enough for today that we can move ahead with the two suggestions that came out of the team for the clean out of the south side as well as the landfill?
Yes, if I can get a formal motion of council to direct administration to do those activities. we will
Okay,
make it so.
and then with that, there would be the engagement with the individuals to not just go in there and clean up, but to say, okay, at this time next week, we're going to be doing this, so they get the heads up, and then that they can also participate in this? Or who will be the one will be going out? Will that be Ryan? Will that be Vanessa?
I would expect that we would manage that in the exact same way that we have done before. So our
past?
team would go out there. I'm not sure what stage Vanessa was brought out there, but to work with those individuals so that we're not just showing up with crews and equipment, and we don't want to create an aggressive situation
No.
for our teams or them. We'd like to go about it compassionately if we can. And last time we did see a fair bit of success, like they were very helpful. So we'd like to do that again.
Perfect. And then are we able to communicate that too, just so the residents know that
Yes.
we're going in and we're dealing with it, we're not turning a blind eye, that
Yes,
as well?
absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so is there a member of council would like to make a motion then? Go ahead, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you. We're just looking for cleanup and conversations, right? As I understand it.
So we're looking to move ahead with the cleanups and the,
Okay. I move to direct administration to proceed with the conversations and cleanup regarding the homeless encampment near the landfill
and the CETC South.
and the CET South and everywhere else.
Within the town. Is that good?
Yes, I believe that works for us. We can begin that work. Did you want to direct administration to do anything about the task force or a strategy at this time, or do you want to talk about that more?
I think it's a separate topic, yeah. Yeah. And then also, okay, so we'll vote on this, or do we want to include the letter? So maybe a friendly amendment then?
I can make a friendly amendment to send a letter to, who would it be?
Wilson?
Minister
Minister
Wilson.
Wilson?
To detail the fact that the town is looking to, what is it, Bill 53? To advance that as soon as possible.
Perfect. Can you just turn your mic, please? You do accept?
Yes, I accept that amendment.
Okay,
Thank
you
you. It
very
was very
much.
friendly of you to offer that friendly amendment.
Okay, wonderful. So there was a motion made by Councillor Brooks and a friendly amendment by Councillor Clark. And if there's no further comment, question, debate, then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. And again, thank you to Ms. Stone, Ryan, Cody, Tom, everyone for acting so quickly on this and coming up with a plan. We really appreciate it. Okay, and then that wraps up our decision items. I'm needing a motion to go into closed. Oh, yeah, we'll call a break as we move into closed. Please, Councillor Clark?
I will make the motion that council move into closed session at 11:50 in accordance with the Access to Information Act, Section 24G and Section 31C3, and under the Protection of Privacy Act to ensure third-party privacy obligations are met.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Councillor Finn, for moving us out of closed. We do have two motions coming out of closed. Is there a member of council that would like to make the motion for 12.2, which is the policing committee appointments? Councillor Finn.
I move that council directs administration to begin working with applicants to apply and obtain security clearances for those shortlisted for appointment to the policing committee as discussed.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll now call the motion. All in favor? Councillor Boehm?
Yeah, we're good.
That is carried. And then we have another motion coming out for 12.3, the philanthropic donation. Counselor Jeffrey. Thank you, Counselor Clark.
I move that council accepts the draft sponsorship contract and directs the mayor, deputy mayor, CAO, and general manager of town services sign this contract with the sponsor.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, debate on the motion? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? Counselor Boehm?
Yep.
That is carried. Thank you very much. So that takes us out of the closed with the motions. We do have a little bit in the agenda, but what I think is that we'll break for lunch and then we'll reconvene in about 45 minutes or something. If that works? Okay, wonderful. We're alive. So we have reconvened our meeting at 2:53 PM. And if you would like to send in your council reports to Ms. Thompson, that is wonderful. I'm going to just quickly read mine because I probably won't have the opportunity to do that. So I'm just going to talk quickly about the sports park barbecue that I went to. It looks absolutely fantastic. Thank you to the town of Drayton Valley, Brazeau County, and the organization, and Garrett and everyone for putting on the barbecue. Miss Stone and I visited the St. Anthony's Kindergarten, and we had a wonderful conversation around leadership and many other things that kindergartners find very amusing and wanted to ask us. So thank you, Miss Jen, for coming. That was so much fun. We had the National Day of Mourning. It was nice to see we had a large turnout, and we had both families here that were part of that as well. I did have a meeting with K Division as well as a follow-up meeting with Dan from the RCMP in regards to, I was invited to a conference that's happening next week that I'll talk a little bit more in round table and just ask your guys' opinion about. We met with CAP. We just had some updates from them and introductions. There is a new representative, Christopher from CAP. We had a meeting again for the charity golf tournament. I had several residents meeting in regards to the homelessness, dust control, businesses, and how we approach that. Land development, as well as meetings with RMRF. And that is it for my report. With that, everyone else will send their reports in. Councillor Wheeler?
Yep, I just wanted to give an update from the Sustainability Committee because we have decided to do the POUR program. We're going to do the special draw twice a year. So we used to just do, you could put your name in and get your $150 credit. So everyone should do that if they get a new appliance that's water smart. But your name goes into a draw for the end of the year for $500, but we're going to do it twice a year for
good.
$250 each. So same budget, but we just want to do a little more advertising with it. So we'll be working on sharing some messaging hopefully in the next little bit to get more names in there. But yeah, if you change your dishwasher, your toilet, keep the receipt, check online.
Always
And
forget.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You get a
$150 credit.
I
That's
know,
a lot.
I got to do that, yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. No, anyone can do that. There's no criteria. There's no criteria. Anyone can do it.
Anyone from the town.
Anyone, as long as you're a town resident. Yeah.
It's protect our ultimate resource is what POUR stands for.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was not controversial. I was just making.
Just need to clarify for Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Farrell. You're welcome. Okay, next up, we have our roundtable discussion, 10.1. Who has something here? I'm just going to quickly follow up with what I'd mentioned about I was invited by, I'm not quite sure how I was invited by. I think it was K Division and senior management to K Division. I am going to be speaking at their conference on May 12th, and it'll be like an open dialogue where it'll be pretty free flow conversation. There'll be about 8 to 10 senior management as well as K Division, so I'll be speaking to about 20 to 25 people. And I'll be talking about who I am, what our challenges are with the RCMP and our community, as well as speaking on behalf of the mid-sized mayors' towns and what the issues are. So I'd had a brief conversation about Ryan, or with Ryan, because I mean, I don't know as a council if we really have any issues with our RCMP. I know that we have a lot of issues when it comes to mental health and the resources for our detachment, as well as prolific offenders and federal, right? So I just wanted to ask you guys if there's something you want me to drive up during that, because I'm going to craft together some things before next week.
Maybe.
Go ahead, Cody, or Councilor Brooks.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Thank you. Yeah, the only Only thing that comes to mind is I talked a little bit during one of our meetings about the RCMP reservists and how there might be it was one of,
Remind me what that is.
okay, so in Alberta, there's 33 RCMP reservists. They're essentially part-time police who, they're all retired RCMP. And they do, like, they go where they're needed, right? And so I talked about, a little bit about, well, our staff sergeant was here, like a month ago. Was it more than that? I don't remember. I talked about how the armed forces have reservists, and they're essentially part-time soldiers that, they get their training, and then, they have the option to work. They can, as an example, when we had the wildfires, I knew some guys who were in the infantry reserves who are out here helping with the fire response and that sort of thing. There's no obligation for them to deploy, stuff like that. They're paid for what they do. If they don't work, they're not paid, that sort of thing. But anyway, so I was talking about when I'd seen how they have RCMP reservists and how they're utilized, I thought it'd be great if we had something similar to what the military does with their reservists, they're part-time guys, for tasks like, driving people to Ponoka. Like there's a lot of time that's being wasted with our guys, and then there's also, they don't have enough people to cover 24 hours, and I don't like to, I'm not gonna tell you which the hours they are, but there's certain times of the day where there's nobody, right? And so people, these part-time guys, they don't have to cover every time, but, just the kind of the threat that there's somebody there, at least some of the time.
Yeah.
Can reduce crime. Not that I don't think crime happens, in a high capacity during those hours, and that's why they've chosen those hours. But anyway, so I thought that there would be maybe an opportunity for the RCMP to look into some kind of a program like that. Like, I know they have auxiliaries, but auxiliaries have to be with one of the RCMP members. Like, they don't do anything alone. They're not armed. They're a useful asset, but they're not, they can't really fill that, those roles that I feel like we're lacking. So that might be something that we want
Sure.
to talk about. I was talking about bringing that to K Division when we went to AB Munis, but we didn't meet with them last time. So
I'll bring it up.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, anything else?
I was just gonna say about like the funding, of course, we've had to pay a ton of money
All the
year over year, the
retroactive.
retro, the upgrades to their gear, like, it's all stuff that needs to happen, right? But I mean, my thought is rather than saddling each municipality with that, is there some sort of cost sharing that could happen with the federal government in that capacity? Maybe it's even 5%. That's better than nothing, right? So, I mean, they are considered a national police force with a contract with the province.
So you're saying like cost sharing when it comes to equipment and,
Yeah, like the stuff that taxpayers assume they probably already have.
oh yeah,
you
and
would
then when you
think,
look
right?
at the breakdown of that 5-year multi-financial and you see
Yeah.
like new tasers, guns,
armor and
ballistics,
all
like
that.
all of that, yeah, armor.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that on there. And if you think of anything else before Tuesday, let me know. I do have a meeting on Thursday with mid-size mayors, so I will ask what they're kind of hearing, because they want to hear from all municipalities of rural,
And
right?
I suppose the capital costs associated with
Building?
building.
Buildings, yeah. Okay. Okay, Farrell?
It's not in relation to the RCMP, but for the round table, it's just about the panic button. So like we had the alert that we get sometimes, but I'm wondering if we can get an unalert. Or like when the alert is over or the incident is over.
Yeah, I can make inquiries with our facilities manager about how that works. Is that the one with the library that we got the other day?
Yeah, and then there
it
was no follow-up.
Yeah, it's a good point. It was, I guess the button was bumped accidentally.
Yeah.
And yeah, for some of us that aren't in the building that get
Yes.
these, it's unnerving. So yeah, I can follow up with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought you had a list. Okay. Anything else? I know we talked about, I think the homeless, that we've been seeing those things come in quite a bit, and I think that was it. Anything else? Emails or nothing that we're seeing?
Potholes look good.
Do they?
They're filling, I mean, the ones they've filled in the very troublesome spots, I think they're holding up somewhat. More so than
Yeah,
they have in
Shelley
the
tried
past.
something, the team tried something that new there, so I really appreciate that,
Yeah.
looking at creative and good ways or
Yeah,
new
it's
ways
working
to
good.
address it. Compliments to the chef. Okay, wonderful. So if there's nothing else then there for roundtable, where did my agenda go? We do have 3 information items. First up is 11.1, FCSS Board meeting minutes, December 11th, 2026. 11.2, Transportation and Economic Corridors. This is the Office of Minister Dreeshen, I'm assuming. 11.3, Brazeau Foundation, again, the meeting minutes from the March 19th. Is there a member of council who would like to receive these as information? Councillor Brooks?
Thank you. I move to receive the information items 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3 for information.
Thank you very much for that. And this is where I always struggle because I don't really need to call the motion, but I'll call the motion. All in favor? That is carried, and we will adjourn our meeting at 3:04. Thank you.